All right, welcome back here to the Gill Connections podcast. Just again, I say it every episode and I mean it. I'm just so humbled that you pressed play today. Not only because I'm glad you're here and want to listen to the podcast and support the coaches, but also because I love sharing these guest journeys here, and I'm really excited about this one. So let's get right into it. Help me welcome from Iowa Central Community College, the wise, the wonderful Miss Anne Cleary. Anne, how are you today?
I am doing well, Mike. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I've been listening for a long time. You've had a lot of really phenomenal guests, so hopefully
Yeah.
someone listens to my podcast.
Oh, you know what? It's
My mom
funny.
will.
There you go. A lot of people say that, hopefully jokingly, because, a lot of people do listen to the podcast. And I always tell them, it's like, you would be surprised from our number one is Boo Snyder. Our 300 and something is usually whoever the most recent one because it's got to catch up and everything. But people are interested in other coaches' stories. And one of the reasons, one of the values that we wanted to bring here to the podcast too, and this fits perfectly with you here and at Iowa Central is, we wanted to make sure that we also were showing all levels of track and field, right? It's very easy, almost like, the whole, we're having this discussion on Twitter, literally real time over the last 48 hours about D1 or bust and things like that. So it's really easy to go out and get these phenomenal, by the way, we have them, amazing men and women from Division One. We've had Carol Smith Gilbert at Georgia. She's awesome. We've had Mouse Holloway. He's amazing. Love these guys and gals. But they're not the be all end all. They're not the only people that can coach, and they're not the only level that is appropriate for all track and field athletes, right? And so it's very, very important for us to D2, D3, junior college, NAIA, high school, middle school, pros even, and we've had the whole gamut. So, and I'm a former junior college coach myself, and in fact, I was just having this conversation this weekend at a convention I was at. It changed me. I have such a love now for junior college athletics after coaching it and being involved with the people, the athletes and coaches and athletics and professors that are at that level that I'm in love with junior college. It really is my favorite all-time level. So I'm super excited to dig in with you and learn more about that as well. So remind me,
Mhm.
because I'm terrible, where is Iowa Central?
Fort Dodge, Iowa.
Fort Dodge. So okay, so if you're watching on
You're gonna make
YouTube,
me,
this
you're
square
gonna
is
make me do.
Iowa. Yeah, yeah. Here is Des Moines, right in the middle. Where am I going? It's got to be central.
Yeah, you're going northeast.
Yep. East. Okay. All right. So I'm going
We're
back towards Cedar Rapids ish.
no, not towards Cedar Rapids.
No, am I going west then a little bit?
We are. I'll just look at a
Are you
map.
are
I've
you
only been
drawing?
here for 2 years. Is
I
that
thought.
fair?
Oh, that's very fair.
We're
Okay.
going towards Sioux City.
Okay. There you go. Sioux City. Yep. Yep. Yep.
No, we're northeast. We're just not
Northeast.
very far east.
Okay.
We're
All right. All right.
northeast.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got
we're
it.
going
Got it.
towards, you're going north through Ames. We're
Yes.
past Ames. And
Yes.
then you're going, you'd take on 20, you would pass Fort Dodge going to Sioux City.
I wonder, did I pass you? I just went to Iowa State a week ago and did that like to get to Ames. Is it 20? Is that the road you just said? Is that the road
So
I went?
you wouldn't have made it all the way to Fort Dodge. You would have turned on 35.
Okay, that was the
Fort
road.
Dodge was probably the sign. You turned towards Des Moines. Fort Dodge would have been straight.
Got it. Yep. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I always forget where. I know it's central because again, everybody makes fun of air quotes makes fun of directional schools, but I'm also like, it's also very helpful to find them. Northeast, southwest. We know exactly where central is. And you mentioned you've only been there for 2 years, so I'm excited
Yes.
to we'll put a pin in that because we're going to work up towards that. So why don't we just get started here, getting our Wayback Machine, and
Okay.
somewhere, assuming you were an athlete, and we have certainly learned after 300 amazing, unique interviews here that not everybody was a track athlete that gets into track and field coaching. Where does track and field begin for you?
So I was a track and field athlete. Yes. I go back when I was 9 years old. My sister, older sister, they did an AAU or USA. Sorry, I don't remember which one. Basketball camp or something. So they had they were members, the USA, AAU, whatever membership, and there was a track meet that was going to be close. So a bunch of members of her basketball team were going to go do this track meet. And I'm 9 years old at the time, so my parents signed me up because I'm going to do it too. I mean, we know, I don't want to say know nothing. My mom did track, obviously, but like at 9 years old, there's not, I mean, it's blown up now, but over 30, almost 30 years ago, wasn't, there wasn't, I didn't, wasn't a part of a track club or anything like that.
Right.
and they entered me in the long jump, and I think it was the 100 and 200. And I won the long jump,
Oh.
and then I just got rolled in the one and the two. And that will be a theme as we go on in my track and
Oh
field career.
no.
But after that, I was sold. And I have loved track ever since.
What, first of all, I love your future humility of that. That's going to be a theme. Thank you for that. As you think back to 9 years old, it's interesting. It's going to be hard, maybe for you. I was thinking about, I was on a long drive this weekend, and I was trying to think of my first coaching job where I was coaching high school up in Chicago. And I was watching the movies, as you think about memories, and it felt almost like an out of body experience. Like I know I did that. It was me, but boy, that feels like two lifetimes, like two other people ago. I couldn't, it was hard for me to conceive that I actually was doing those activities. Do you remember as a 9 year old, you said you were hooked? What was it? Was it competition? Was it other kids? Was it you got a medal? Sometimes that's a big deal.
No, I think it was my mom, and I don't really remember, I guess. I guess what
Yeah.
I'm remembering is stories I'm told is my
Right.
mom says, they made some comment about future Olympian or something, and then they put the medal around my neck, and then that was
Wow.
it. I
That's
was
interesting.
not a future Olympian.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I always tell people, who is nobody. I mean, that's why when I meet Olympians, I'm like, dude, you are in a club of nobody. Like you're out the charts. Yeah, that's interesting. It reminds me, we had Willie Banks. Do you remember Willie Banks? Great triple jumper, American record holder. The inventor of the clap and everything. And we like to. I probably forgot to tell you, Ann. I'm kind of a tangent interviewer, so
You're
I'm
okay.
just yeah, yeah. We're gonna get
I
to your
am, like I
story.
said, I am a big fan of the podcast.
Oh, okay,
So,
good, good. So you're familiar with this. We eventually do get to the story, but it reminds me of all these other amazing things. So we rail on this, ribbons for everybody type of thing and trophies for everybody. But I was this kind of made me change my mind a little bit. Willie Banks, who again becomes American record holder, gold, Olympic medalist, et cetera, et cetera. And when I asked him how he got into track, he talked about he went and very similar, maybe not at 9, but very similar. Went to a meet and triple jumped and did real well, but got like eighth, like maybe 12th. Like did not win it by any stretch of the imagination, but he got a ribbon for it. And that was the first time that someone had said like your word, like you have potential, you can do like
mhm.
you're good, and that set him on the path to greatness. And it made me think like, oh, if we're given, and not, this is necessarily not your story as far as, you won the long jump for crying out loud, but if we're giving 9, 10, 11-year-old kids trophies on stuff, and it's like, who cares? But if that motivates that kid, all the best. I don't really think it makes kids like think, well, I should, I'm a winner every time. It's like, no, you still know you're ninth or 13th or whatever. But I
Yeah.
don't know, just interesting to me about youth athletics and what that can and cannot motivate them for the future. But but similar, someone said, future Olympian or something. Again, something that, that's ludicrous to say to anybody really, but to a 9 year old.
Yeah.
But in your head, you're kind of like, maybe me? Wow. That's interesting. I love that. Okay, so you're hooked. So what does that mean? Do you join the local track club and go on to
So I did,
greatness?
so I grew up in Vermillion, South Dakota, where the
Oh
University of
yeah.
South Dakota is.
Yeah.
So, and again, I don't know at what point. I think I was in high school by that point, but I was in a track club that was based out of Sioux Falls, so which was about over 45-minute drive
Mhm.
for practice and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
eventually was part of a track club, but that did take some time just because, my parents weren't driving me to Sioux Falls
Yeah.
multiple times a week and stuff,
Yeah.
and they're working full time and stuff like that. But I continued to do all the AAU and USA and the rec track and field
Mhm.
and the Hershey track meets and all
Yeah.
that type of stuff. So yes.
Any other sports?
Yeah, I played through middle school, high school and stuff. I played volleyball and
Oh,
basketball.
yeah.
I ran cross country just my senior year, and again, as the theme, running is not a strong point. But I was an individual South Dakota State qualifier, so I like to throw that out with my cross country kids. That
Yeah.
yeah, and then they remind me it was South Dakota, so there's probably only like 25 people in the whole state. So, but still,
Yeah, that's
but
right.
yes,
Hey, you can't that wasn't your fault. You didn't pick where
yeah.
you live, so you just had to do what you do and you got it done. Yeah. I love it. I love it. You mentioned, I think you said a sister, other family in sports, track, or anything like that?
So, older sister and younger brother,
Mhm.
and we were all pretty active. I'm the only one that kind of went on to college and stuff.
Mhm.
And did athletics and stuff, but they're still very, my sister works in like special education and stuff and is an adaptive or a unified high school coach. And then my
Yeah.
brother is an athletic trainer and currently works for the Savannah Bananas.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Uh-huh.
So,
Technically, he works for the Party Animals, the other team.
oh, is
So
that the
there's
other, is that
two team,
the
yeah.
is that the Washington Generals of the Savannah? Do you know the Washington Generals? They always played the Harlem
Oh,
Globetrotters. Is that the
they actually though, like in Banana Ball in Banana Land, they have followers and stuff. And like my husband and daughter are Party Animal fans, not banana fans.
wow?
So all the teams kind of have their own following. It's very interesting and very, and I mean, you want to talk about marketing and all that
Oh,
stuff. Jesse Cole is a
I,
genius.
100% agree. I absolutely uh maybe don't want to go too strong of a word here, but do not like baseball at all. However, I want to go to a Savannah Bananas, but you can't. They're just all sold out everywhere. I mean, just
Yeah,
it's ludicrous.
my
Yeah, yeah.
whenever people say, I just say anywhere close to your house, just get in the lotteries and get in because it is worth
Yeah.
it. It is
Yeah.
awesome.
So you've been
Yes.
multiple times?
Yes.
Oh,
So we've
lucky
also
duck.
we've went out to Savannah where my brother and sister-in-law live and have been at Grayson Stadium and stuff, which also if you're in Savannah and you can go to Grayson Stadium, it's phenomenal. But yeah, they put on the show and
Oh
then
yeah.
my 6-year-old daughter, she is like on cloud nine and they make every kid feel like they know them personally and stuff. Like it is crazy,
That's
you
so
know,
cool.
just how good they are and how, like the players,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
stuff they do with, the marketing and the fan first, it's phenomenal. So yes, if you can go to a
That's
Savannah
cool.
Bananas game or a Party Animals game, go.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
It's amazing to me that people that come up with these really ludicrous ideas, like, I think it's Jesse Cole, is that right? That's his
Mhm.
name. Go back 10, 15, 20 years when he first had the idea, hey, I'm going to create this fake baseball team. We're going to break all the rules and it's basically going to be a party centered around a baseball game. Everybody, he had to be told no a million times. Like, what? You're an idiot. No one's going to do this, blah, blah. And he's created a culture.
Mhm.
It's phenomenal. Speaking of culture, so brother and sister, while may not have gone on to do college athletics, which we'll learn more about from you here in a little bit, but still in the athletic world, she's
Yes.
coaching
Mhm.
adaptive. He's an athletic
Yep.
trainer. So sports is a big deal for the family, it sounds like.
Yes. Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So talk to us about high school track and field. Did you stay as a long jumper? I was curious when
Yep.
people
So
went as a
I was,
9-year-old.
yep. So I long jumped, triple jumped, high jumped, would run on some relays and stuff. Like I said, I was not fast. It was probably, well, not probably, definitely a huge limiting factor in my long jump was my lack of speed. And then and South Dakota doesn't have the multi events, but through the summer I did heptathlon, pentathlon, and stuff like that.
Now,
So,
how did you get into that? Because I'm curious about that. Because
well,
we don't have
that's
many states that have that at all. So how did you figure out to do multis?
So I'm probably going to tell this story wrong again because I wasn't very old. So don't, USA or AAU track and field or whoever it is, don't come after me.
Hey,
But I want
remember
to say
we
it was after the state meet.
remember,
We
Ann,
were,
we didn't have TFers back in our day, so
that's
no
true.
one
So they
can
can't,
look up anything.
you
That's
know?
right. We're good.
Yeah, so I want to say it was after the state meet. You had to register maybe before you left for the regional meet or something. And again, like I said, don't come after me if I have this all wrong. So I'm remembering it.
Yeah.
And they said, like, well, we see she, long jumped or triple jumped, high jumped. I probably didn't triple jump yet at that point. We didn't have anybody do the multi-event. Do you want to go a
Mm.
couple days early? And it might have only been like a try or something at that point, like not a full. And my mom was like, oh yeah, she can do that. And there we go. So,
Mom was like,
yeah,
go.
yeah, yeah, she'll do that. She can do that. So there we go. And then I had loved the multi ever since.
Mm,
The multi is definitely my baby. It's definitely my
yeah.
favorite event and favorite, yeah, as an athlete.
Back in I think it was 2024. These all kind of start running in together. I went out and interviewed one high school coach from every state about their outdoor state meet series and how they qualify. And one of the questions, actually, kind of to your sister and to you, one of the questions that I didn't have initially because it just wasn't in my head, and I did them alphabetically. But after Alabama, Alaska, whatever, Arkansas, it became really quick. Like, oh, adaptive is a part of high school track more than I thought. Like it's not just one state. There are multiple states that had adapted, unified, handicapable. Like it was it was really interesting. So I thought that was fascinating. But in that same interview, I did because Alabama was the first one, and I'm from Alabama. I know some states do unofficial multi, state championships or something like that. And I was actually blown away at how many states, a few states, a handful of states actually have it as part of their state meet series. Tennessee and Boston, or Boston, Massachusetts, and things like that. But there are a lot of unofficial or AAU and things like that. There's more multi going on out there than I initially thought, which I love. Even if they don't go on to become multis in college, it just makes them more athletic. So I just love that aspect of it. What did you like about it? Was it that you could spread yourself over more events, or was it you like the combined? I don't have to be the best at any one, but if I'm pretty good at all of them, I can be good here.
Yeah, probably the second part is that I wasn't phenomenal at any,
Mhm.
individual event, but I also didn't necessarily have bad events.
Yeah.
And also I think it just maybe undiagnosed ADHD, like ADHD, like I didn't have to sit, I didn't have to sit and do one event for a long time. I could
Yeah.
bounce around, I could do different things, it helped with not getting bored.
That's a good point. I wonder how many kids we lose because they do the 2 mile at the very first event, and then we say, hey, 4 hours later you'll do the mile or whatnot. And it's like 4 hours in a basketball game. I'm always subbing in. I'm doing something.
Mhm.
And I'm not 4 hours. You're crazy. I wonder how many kids we lose because of that. That's interesting. So tell me about your high school experience. Your high school coaches. Was there a good relationship? Did they just do their thing? You did your thing. Tell us about that relationship.
No, I absolutely, loved my high school coaches, and I think that was a big reason in staying in track and field is like the coaches I had all the way through college and stuff like that, is that I just always, loved the coaches I had in track and field, and I felt, that they, pushed me to be better. They let me be me. They, like I had a lot of energy and had a lot going on and stuff like that, and maybe that isn't always great for team sports. I wasn't always able to kind of stay laser focused and stuff, at a basketball or volleyball practice. I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. I'm not a great team player. My husband says that all the time. That's why individual sports are for me because I'm such a bad team player. I just like to do my own thing. I don't need other
Yeah.
people to mess it up. So,
Yeah.
but no, I had phenomenal coaches that continued to be supportive, and I went on to college and stuff. And then one actually, she was maybe just my freshman year. Again, remembering back, you're making me remember way back. I ran into her at a meet this past year.
Oh,
Like she knew I was
really?
back at she's not in Vermillion anymore. She knew I was back at Iowa Central and stuff. But yeah, just ran into her at a meet. So super cool.
And this was a coach who was only your coach for your freshman year?
I think she was just my freshman year. It definitely wasn't in later. It definitely wasn't in like my junior, senior and stuff year, but yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, that's a real uh, indication of the impact she made on you. It'd be one thing if she'd coached you your whole 4 years and was your main jumps coach or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, you guys talked every day for 4 years. Here's someone that you had interaction with for maybe a year, and yet impacted you and you remembered her and vice versa. Like that's what you do, honestly, as track coaches. That's why when people talk about it being a thankless job and I'm not sure why we do it, it's like, man, there's so many people that are grateful for what you do, and they won't tell you thank you, and they won't tell you the impact, just because we don't do it either. By the way, as
Right.
adults, we don't tell every barista and store clerk and DMV person thanks and appreciate what you do, because if they don't do what they do, you can't do what you do. So it's easy for us not to say something, but there are so many people, so many eyeballs that you've affected, that it's amazing. So I love this, just a tiny part of your track career, and it was an impact. You mentioned your coaches pushed you and motivated you. Can you think of a story of a time in high school where it's funny because we're different people, right? Who we were 14, 18-year-olds is not who we
Mhm.
are now today as 30 and 40-year-olds. Can you think of a story of whether it was you didn't want to be motivated that day, or thank God they were there, or I was going to quit track? Anything that comes top of mind?
Yeah, so there's a story I've told it quite a few times, and I was triple jumping. Triple jump, you have the long jumps and then you have the triple jumps. And the meet had gotten way behind or whatever. I was the last one still going. And my parents were at almost every meet. I, a lot of times went home with them afterwards and stuff. And the coach just, said, I probably said something to my parents or whatever first. It was done completely tactfully and, good and everything. But, like, hey, can the bus go home?
Mhm.
and then you take it, whatever, because everyone's. And I made a comment about, well, I want the whole team to come watch me. I've had to be here I want everybody to come watch me. And my coach told me if I wanted people to watch me, I should play basketball. Which I did play basketball, by the way, but it did just kind of put in perspective a little bit. It's, and that is a little bit track and field. There's definitely been times in my life as a coach and stuff. I said, I want an administrator here. I want more people, and it just, well, then I guess I should have been a better basketball player. And it is just, and I think we can take that into life in different
Yeah.
instances and stuff like that. Like, we all want a crowd. We all want, and
Hmm.
like you said, everybody wants to be told thank you, and
Hmm.
everybody wants
Hmm.
to have eyes and stuff on
Hmm.
them, like everybody wants that type of stuff. And
Yep.
like you said, we work a thankless job, and there's times, I think we do things as coaches and things, and you think like, well, it would have been nice if they would have just said thank you, or they would
Hmm.
have, but it's Ron Swanson on Parks and Rec made the comment, you can't work a thankless job and expect to be thanked.
Oh, first of all, I am pretty sure in 300 episodes, this is the first time Ron Swanson has been quoted. So bravo. There's always
He should
first.
be more often. We
He
should in our
should be.
everyday
He
lives.
should be. And that is a
But
really good, like, that's kind of one of those, like, oh, yeah, I am. If I'm in a thankless job, I shouldn't be expected to be thanked. Yeah. Yeah. I think that says something about, like, what intrinsic motivation versus extrinsic motivation. Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of thinking something similar to that this weekend too, where, some coaches will rail on the other aspects of our jobs that we don't necessarily like paperwork and compliance, maybe and things like that. And it's like, oh, then I don't think you knew what the actual job was then, because that is part of the job. The job is not you're just only on the track or at the throwing ring. Like there are recruiting
coaching
and
is
paper.
actually coaching is the reward of the job. Going to
Yeah.
practice, getting to go to
Mm.
meets. That's the fun part of the job. Um,
Yeah.
the other stuff is the job.
Yeah, and we think we get into it to just do those fun things, and it's like, oh no, no, that's a part, but there are other aspects of the job. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. All right, so as you're going into senior year and you start thinking about colleges and maybe competing and things like that, talk to me about so that process of a college and picking it. And what I'm really interested at this point in your life is what are you thinking about majoring in so that you can become like, oh, I'm going to major in business because I'm going to own a business. Like I don't necessarily hear that, coaching at this point, and I could be wrong, that that's even in
No,
your
not at
mind.
all.
Yeah. Okay. So talk to me about the college kind of choosing aspect and what were you thinking as a 17, 18-year old? I want to become.
Well, I thought I wanted to be a nurse.
Okay.
Um, I'm not smart enough to be a nurse, and I say that in the most respectable way of
Hey.
all nurses, not the student athletes I've had that go through nursing and go through are brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
The nurses, we deal with when we go are brilliant, and I thought I wanted to be a nurse, and good thing before I even started, I got pulled out of that because I wouldn't have made it there. But I did start looking at schools with nursing programs. That is what I started. I
Okay.
wanted Division two.
Okay.
I knew I wasn't, I thought that's the level I could compete
Hmm.
at. I knew I wasn't going to be Division one. I didn't
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that was the case. And I
Okay.
thought Division two. I was looking for nursing programs and then looking for good multi coaches because I knew I wanted to be a multi,
Okay.
and that wasn't necessary. That's not something that every school necessarily, they may have them and stuff like
Right.
that, but I wanted a multi coach.
Yeah. So pause right there for a second because you just said two things. Because I'm trying to picture Anne as a 17-year-old kid, and I give a lot of grace to young people because they need it, and I need it, and I certainly know I needed it as a 17-year-old. You just kind of said two things that are pretty large self-awareness that I'm not sure, I don't think I had as a 17-year-old, but I'm not sure many 17-year-olds. One is the aspect of like, oh, okay, I like nursing or whatever, but I don't know, to your words, I'm not smart enough. You certainly are, but all the other aspects into it. That's a pretty
Well, I think
self.
my parents told me I wasn't smart enough, so maybe I shouldn't. I was lucky in the sense that I have parents that are extremely honest with
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
and they definitely didn't sugarcoat stuff and tell us
I
that.
love your
So I think
parents.
they stepped in and said, no, that's not.
Not a surprise that they raised at least three kids very, they're all successful now. Parent, they were right there. Okay, so hey, for self-awareness, we need to have help with that. So I love that. But then on your college choice, one, and again, this is a conversation that's, it's ongoing every day. And I was just in the muck of a conversation on Twitter over the last 24 hours about the D1 or bust. You kind of right off the bat self-assess that okay, probably not, so you must have done some research of like, okay, this is kind of what it takes to jump or do multis at Division One. Here's what it takes to Division Two. You probably maybe looked at Division Three. Where are you growing up, by the way? I didn't even ask that. Oh, you said yeah, South.
Vermillion, South
Yeah.
Dakota. Yep.
So great D3 in any IA school. So maybe you're looking at all those, and you kind of like, okay, Division Two, and then here's another extra little step you took though, Ann, is you were like, okay, it seems like combined events is not necessarily like, maybe air quotes, I can go anywhere to long jump, but combined events, maybe there's some specialty. I need to look for that speciality. Again, for a 17, 18-year-old kid, this is a little, I just know, it just feels like this little higher thinking here.
So I had University of South Dakota is in my hometown,
Great
which
school.
up until that point was a Division two. But I
Uh,
knew they were going to move over to Division one. In anyways, I probably would have went to the University of South Dakota. Lucky
okay.
Huber, phenomenal
Love
coach.
him.
They had good multis and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
that's
I
right.
went to all their camps and stuff like that. So I think that was a huge, a
Yeah.
huge help in seeing that that's what I wanted,
Right.
but I also knew that I knew I didn't want to go Division One.
Okay.
I wanted to be able to go to national championships
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Oh,
hopefully
yeah.
contend for national titles and do things like that. And I didn't foresee that
Yeah.
being possible at that next level.
Again, I think, I mean, you just described the majority of track athletes, right? Not, the majority of track athletes are not Division One out of high school. But a lot of those kids still think they're going Division One,
But
so
remember, there wasn't really social media when I
yeah.
didn't have a Facebook till I was in college.
Ooh,
And I think
nice.
that was a huge thing is that I didn't
Mm,
have people chirping in my ear, well, what do you mean you're not going to go Division One? What do you mean you're not going to go, like
right,
and
right,
I
right,
think
right.
I think it's a huge deterrent to some kids. I mean, I know we talk to kids and at the junior college level, I'm coaching Division One level
Hmm.
kids. We had
Hmm.
three kids at in the Division One finals that were at Iowa
Right,
Central in the last 2 years. We are coaching Division One caliber kids. There
right.
are Division One caliber kids at D2 and D3 and NAIA, and there are
Yeah,
Division One kids at Division One schools that wouldn't be the top kids at NAIA and Division Three and
right,
Division Two. Like,
right, right, right.
so I just think this D1 and bust mentality, like you said, it really
Yeah,
bothers because you got to pick. I mean, the best school for you, the best
yeah,
coaches. There's so many other
yeah.
things that go into it, and
And I
just
and I think you made a great point about people chirping in your ear. I again, we're talking about 17, 18-year-old kids. I think I think about sitting around parent circles, and if I'm sitting around on my parenting friends, and what sounds better for me as the dad in this scenario, that hey, my kid's going to Harvard or my kid's going to our local community colleges, Parkland Community College. Which one do the other parents go, ooh, Harvard? They don't go, ooh, Parkland. I'm sorry, they don't. So I wonder sometimes because we keep railing against the kids having the D1 bus, but then I wonder, like, well, first of all, what are their parents chirping at them and uncles and aunts and then their other 17, 18-year friends who maybe aren't athletes, they just know, again, using that example, Harvard and Parkland.
Mhm.
I wonder, again, I just give them so much grace, and I'm like, man, I don't care if a kid thinks he is supposed to go to Iowa and Iowa State and he only jumps 21 feet. It's like, okay, well, you're not supposed to. It's cool that he attains to go that. Reality is you're not, so maybe you need to go to junior college to develop, or maybe you need to go to Division 3 or any whatever. But I'm not gonna kick the kid for wanting to go to Iowa or Iowa
Mhm.
State. I don't know. I don't know.
No, and I think too, you didn't have the people doing the gear reveals
Oh my
online
gosh.
and you didn't have all that stuff. That's a
Yeah.
question we get all the time. What am I getting as
Yeah.
gear?
Mm,
And I get you want to get gear, you want to get, but like n there wasn't any of that
yeah.
exposure
Yeah.
back, we'll just say back when I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
getting ready to go to, like
Yeah.
none of that type of stuff was on my radar.
Yeah. Hey,
Um,
that's another great point, Ann. Who is creating this stuff? Who's creating the problem? Is it the kids because they think they want to go, Power Four or whatever, or all the schools? And I know Power Four does this, but I know a lot of other non-Power Fours that do the uniform reveals, and it's like, wait a minute, you're adding to the same problem here, guys.
no, but I think there's definitely stuff in coaching and
Yeah,
things with our social media that we do that I don't necessarily love, but at the same, it's everyone else is doing it, and that's what our
I
social
agree.
media is for recruit, as we say, our
Hmm.
number one thing is to
Hmm.
connect,
Hmm.
with our alumni and keep up
Hmm.
with our alumni and stuff, but it's for recruiting purposes as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I wish kids, we talk about and we can get into the deep dive of community college and
Hmm. Hmm.
I know you are, you're a fan and stuff
Hmm.
and but like how do we convince these kids to
Yeah.
come to community college and
Yeah.
that developing for those 2 more years and stuff and
Yeah.
there's definitely the stigma that people only go to community college because they can't get into a 4-year college and stuff like that.
Right. Right.
I just what I was doing right before we got on was making our graphics for the Coaches Association Academic All-Americans, and we have
Right.
multiple kids 4.0s that are going on and maybe not
Nice.
even doing track and field and stuff and are
Right.
going on and going to the major Division 1 schools and stuff
Nice.
now. And they were smart out of high school.
Right.
And isn't it way smarter to come to Iowa Central where it is going to cost them way less to get their gen eds and stuff and then
Yeah.
go on and they're getting the best of both worlds and
Yeah.
stuff. And I don't know how we sell that though, because there's so many people we talk to and so many when I
Hmm.
talk to coaches and stuff too, they're like, that kid would be a great fit for junior college, but their parents won't even. It's
Right.
not,
Right.
they're not, it's not like you can talk to them, but it's not worth your time
Yeah.
because the parents, that's not what the parents
That,
want. And
that
the
that's what I
parents,
think. It's the ego of the
and
parents, not what's best for the kid. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
and they just
So
don't see, they don't see what we have to
yeah.
offer.
Yeah. Until they absolutely drop dead need it. And then sometimes that's too late, boys and girls. That's the problem.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So
But
where did you end up going to school in multis and
Central
what did you end
Missouri.
up majoring in? It's funny when you said I was looking for a place that had culture. I almost said, so you looked at Central Missouri then, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're a Jenny.
Yeah, I am a Jenny, yes.
Nice. Oh, I've never actually been able to call an Ann a Jenny. That's
There
awesome.
we go. Yes. So I am a Jenny. Yes. So to Central Missouri, and I majored in public relations with a minor in corporate communications, and then ultimately got my master's in mass communications. And now I
Wow.
coach.
Why,
Nothing,
why,
nothing in the coaching realm whatsoever.
why communications though? What were you thinking?
So when I decided, I had already decided I was going to Central Missouri and I wasn't going to do nursing anymore. And my parents are like, well, just go look at the majors and pick one, I guess. Like, pick
I
something.
love your parents, dude. These
Yeah, you
guys are
should have them
awesome.
on.
Yeah, no joke.
Um, but yeah, so I looked, and again with University of South Dakota being in my hometown, a lot of family friends that were professors and worked at the university
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And it was actually my pastor's wife was, I don't know if she was chair of the communications department at the time, but she was at times and stuff, and she was in communications, and she's like, "You'd be perfect. You'd be perfect. Go into communication." She goes, "It can," which is so right. It can go in so many different like so many different ways you can go with communications, so
Yeah.
many different industries you can work in with communications and stuff. So that's why, yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what, and I picked my major before I started, and I stuck with the same thing the whole way through.
Yeah.
Didn't switch, didn't pick my might not have picked my minor right off the bat, but once I
Right.
had my minor, I didn't change it.
Name a profession that communications isn't important and improved communications wouldn't be a huge help. I can't. Not a single job, right? From president to my waste management guy. I mean, communications is essential to all that we do. So I do love that. I was in the communications department, print journalism and public relations. So same, adjunct to that. Okay, so you get to Central Missouri. So is Kip your coach?
Yep. Hmm.
Oh, dude. Wow. That tells me a lot about you positively right off the bat. That's awesome. Love him. You get there. So you go focus all in on combined events then.
Yes, I was going to be a multi-eventer that's what I was going to be from the get-go.
Any
Yep.
setbacks? Any one event is tough. The combined event as one event is extremely tough. Any setbacks during the career?
Um, yeah, I mean, I think every injuries and, different things. Ultimately so I redshirted because we knew they were going to add the pentathlon. So the pentathlon at the Division 2 level was not an
Hmm.
event indoor pentathlon was not an event.
Right.
So my freshman and sophomore year, it wasn't an event. I redshirted,
Mhm.
so then I could have 2 years.
Right.
Ultimately went on and got my master's and stuff because of that. So it ended up
Sweet.
being, I mean, maybe didn't have everything figured out before, which maybe my parents weren't very happy about, and I didn't maybe listen to them in that sense. But it ended up working out great. So maybe again, not don't listen and everything will still work out, but I had some things figured out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got mono, which is hard because it takes a long time to figure out that's what you have. You're just
Yeah.
tired, you don't feel good, and it takes a long time to recover. Um, So that was, probably one of the lots of little things, little hamstring things and
Yeah.
stuff. But I had done all the events, and I think that was
Mm.
a huge change. I turned into a spinner from a glider in the shot put, so that
Oh,
that
yeah.
you know that took a lot and stuff. But
That's interesting. How was that for you? Because, I know for I'm going to say true throwers, sorry, and you know what I
no,
mean.
that's okay.
Someone who's doing shot put,
I'm yes, 100%. You are fine.
the changing from glider to spin, like there's, I think someone's putting together like an educational thing about Chasey Ely, who I guess went from all through college. I think she was um, a power thrower, glide thrower, and then moved to spin, and now she's what, number two ever or something, or two in our country, something like that, maybe number one. Um, and I think, wow, that's got to be really hard. Like, it's the same event, but two totally ways to skin the cat, if you will. For someone who doesn't specialize in it, you are also learning. You have all these other events that you're learning, the javelin, the hurdles, maybe, and things like that. How was that for you to learn going from a glide to a spinner?
Yeah, it definitely, I mean, there was definitely a lot of frustration with it and a lot of times, and it is in talking to some throws coaches and stuff, it's harder to line it up. It's harder. It's maybe a little bit more inconsistent and stuff, especially
Mm,
like you said, somebody that's maybe throwing one, maybe two times a week. I'm
right.
not, luckily we had, he just retired, phenomenal throws coach and Tucker Wosley at Central Missouri. So I was able to work like with him a lot too. And,
Right.
we were lucky. For the most part, our multis and throwers got along, which in the time I've been and talking to other isn't always the case. But they loved like taking us on, at practice and stuff. So maybe we were done for the day, but the throwers were just getting started. Tucker taught full time, so they didn't get started at the high school well, maybe it was middle school. Not at the college,
Right, right.
taught full time, so they didn't throw till later. So sometimes we'd stay after and throw and stuff. And very lucky, one of my roommates was a national champion shot putter and stuff too. So that we had that extra
Yeah, yeah,
work and
yeah.
stuff that we could do.
I think sometimes, people learn in different ways. And I think one of the ways that you start working on mastery of stuff is you start teaching it, even though you're not a master of it yet. I bet you guys, multis who were learn, I feel like these like fledgling birds trying to learn how to fly. And here's these eagles. And it's like, oh, them help, kind of giving you cues, help them understand what they needed to be doing as well. So I could see that
Yeah.
kind of mutually beneficial relationship there.
I mean, I've never thought about it like that
Hmm.
way, but like it definitely, yeah, I would definitely say
Hmm.
that probably, yeah, to break down and maybe sometimes too, I think it's good for now as a coach, student athletes when they're helping other students, seeing like the frustration that comes
Hmm.
in the coaching realm to, like, you're
Yeah,
trying as hard as you can and you can't figure out why the coach is mad at you because you're trying as hard as you can, but they're trying as hard as they can too, and we're all just people.
right.
And as a from coaching standpoint, I've explained it three different ways. I don't know why you don't get it. And from the athlete standpoint, it's like, well, I swear I'm doing what you're saying,
Right.
but you say I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great
So
point. And in did every multi, was it automatic that they learned how to spin there, or
no,
okay, good. Okay. Because I was thinking, like, friend of the pod and friend of mine, Ashton Eaton, he famously, not only did he didn't even do the slide, like he, did I don't know what they call it, the crow
I
hop
call it
back,
the
or
step back or
yeah, the
whatever.
step back.
Yeah, but I
And,
don't
and
know if
it,
that's what it's called.
and it was like, there was no one more athletic than Ashton, but him and Harry, made a decision of like, well, we only have this much time, and we need to be, we can get way better in the 100 and the long jump and things like that. So let's do the absolute best we can with the limited amount of time. I think he would have been a phenomenal, when I say phenomenal, not in the context of a Joe Kovacs and Ryan Krauser, but would have been a very good, capable multi shot putter if he would have just done shot put, but then he wouldn't have, run 10-1 and long jump 20, 8 meters plus and things like that necessarily. So it's interesting that when you talk about that frustration of coaching, that each athlete is different, even though they may, let's say you got two heptathletes there, six of their events could be the exact same. They both long jump the same. They both 100-meter hurdle the same, et cetera, et cetera. But in the shot put, it's like, oh no, maybe one is ready to try to learn the spin and the other one needs to stay where she is. They are different people. Every one of your kids are different people.
Right. Hmm.
Yeah. That sucks sometimes. It's like, okay, I'll be the same. The good one. Be like the good one. So at any point, it's amazing that you had Kip and, I know Central Missouri had many, many
Yes.
other amazing coaches there as well. So you're kind of in like not just a track, I don't want to say mecca necessarily, but like like you had strong track coach, like coaches there.
Yes.
At any point during college, is the idea of coaching coming into mind at all?
Well, Kip would tell me that I should be a coach,
Oh,
and I'd say no. Like I said, public relations. I wanted to go into crisis communication.
okay.
I wanted to work for my kind of ideal job. I thought I wanted to work for a firm that did crisis communication. So major companies have crisis communication people right in.
Right.
A crisis communication firm would go into like a company that didn't have one, or
Hmm.
maybe step in when things got,
Yep.
really crazy. And again, the idea of it's different all the time.
Yeah.
That's what I need. I can't
Ah.
sit in an office and have things, and that's what I liked. So
How,
that's what I thought I was going to do.
how did you find that that was even a job though? You,
Oh,
you
I
know
don't
what I'm saying?
I had very good, a lot of our communication professors had worked out in the workforce and then came back into
Okay.
teaching and stuff. So I would say it had something to do with that. I guess I don't really know.
Yeah. I was curious, when you get past like the top five most, maybe not the most common jobs, but most commonly known jobs, lawyers, doctor, maybe
Mhm.
sales guy or something like that. When you get into like, this is you had a very specific path, a vision anyway of like, oh, crisis control, love that. Oh, I need to be not necessarily in the one big company waiting for the crisis to happen. I need to be somewhere like, oh, there's a crisis over there. Okay, I'll go over there. Oh, now I got to go over here. Like again, kind of that self-awareness of you. You knew like, oh, I need to have 10 things on my plate. I can't handle one thing on my plate. I need to,
It was a multi-eventer. I didn't do one
yeah,
event, I did seven.
I need seven, right? Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay, but you got, I mean, I almost feel like ordained, knighted by the coach. Kip says you should be a track coach, and you kind of push back a little bit,
Yeah, I just didn't think that, like I said, I thought I knew what I wanted to do.
right? So when did it start turning?
So it's December. I'm going to graduate with my master's in May, and I have my
Ah,
parents tell me I have to go find a job. So I start applying for jobs, and I don't want to do anything I'm qualified to do. I have, this bachelor's degree. I'm going to have a master's degree, and I don't want to do any of the stuff. And the job at Edinburgh, Pennsylvania pops up
yeah.
early. So in like April, I went and interviewed, which is very early for a track coaching position and stuff. So that position popped up, and and I said, I don't know if I want to coach. I don't. Kip said, just go do it for a couple years. Go do it for a couple years till you
He's
figure out
so
what you want to
good.
do.
He's so
And what,
good.
here I sit 15 years later.
Yeah, yeah, he's so good. He knew. He's like, let's just get her hooked. We'll be good. Because in track, think about it, the way you're explaining, your kind of your thought process stuff. I mean, that is track coaching. There is no one single thing
Mhm.
only on your plate at any one time. If you are, you're only coaching, I don't know, one kid somewhere. I don't. You're a pro coach of a marathoner, I guess. I don't know. Even that has a lot of stuff on their plate. You have not only the kids in front of you, but office work, recruiting, I mean, a billion things. So he knew. He was like, yeah, 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 just go, just try. That was one of his best recruiting jobs, actually, is to get you into coaching for crying out
There we
loud.
go. Yeah.
But you didn't do any, like a lot of times, similar-esque stories of yours. I'll hear like, oh, I helped. I'd go home for the summers and help out with the local club, or, there in Central Missouri, was it Warrensville? Yeah,
Warrensburg.
Warrensburg. In Warrensburg, I'd go over and help out the local high school. I'm not hearing that you did any.
So I did my 4 years of my
Mhm.
undergrad, and then in my fifth year, I had my red shirt year. So I was still competing
Right,
in
right,
my fifth year.
right.
And then in my sixth year, where I was finishing up my master's program, then I was a volunteer coach, but I still competed and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
yes, I did coach then, I
but not
guess.
okay. So, but not when you started doing that 6 year, helping out because you're done with your eligibility, you're in
Mhm.
grad school, so you have less classes, things like that. I didn't. I'm not hearing or even feeling that like, oh, you know what, Mike, and that really, like when I turned from Anne the athlete to Coach Cleary, like I felt, yeah, I didn't. I'm not hearing that necessarily.
No, and I
Yeah.
also I had a grad assistantship, but my grad assistantship was in the communications department, and I taught public speaking.
Mm.
So I wasn't like, not that, I mean, I had some jobs and things
Hmm.
I got and, things like that, but I wasn't like the grad assistant in the
Yeah.
communication, I mean,
Yeah.
sorry, on the track and field team or anything like
Right.
that. So,
So Edinburgh comes available. Kip, almost like the little bird in the nest, like, no, no, just go, 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 try it. So you now that's far away from home too.
Yes, it's a yes.
No concerns.
I guess not really, and there probably
Mhm.
should have been because I'm kind of a homebody and that,
Okay.
like, but I just made that my home, so I could be a homebody there.
Yeah. All right.
Um, so no, I was all, yeah.
So you take the job in Edinburgh,
Hmm.
and now what's it? Because that now is this is your first full-time coach. You are Coach Cleary. This is the
Yes, I was
job,
the
right?
assistant women's track and field coach.
So how did that go?
I think all right.
When I
It's
ask that
still there.
question, I don't
I'm still.
mean I don't mean like, oh, how many All-Americans did you coach? So how was, now the lifestyle changes. You're no longer a student athlete.
Mhm.
That itself, transitioning from athlete to non-athlete, can be a I think to some degree, it is hard for anybody to one day, Friday you show up at practice, maybe at a meet or whatever, and then on Monday you just don't because you're not on the team anymore. The season's over. That can be hard because we make it our identity. I'm a heptathlete. That's an identity, right? We forget like, no, I'm Ann first, and I do the heptathlon, but it becomes our identity. Now you become Coach Cleary, which is another identity, by the way. You're still Ann first. Your profession happens to be coaching, but now you are the coach, so you're out there. You had your own group maybe, so you don't have Kip. Hey, go give them this workout. Like you have to write the workouts.
Yeah.
That's when I say how to go. That's what I meant. How did that
So
transition go?
I think it's interesting. You made the comment earlier is that I think, a lot of people that aren't in coaching don't realize everything that goes into coaching.
Mhm,
And I've always said in every step, from being just the student athlete to being kind of the volunteer assistant, we'll put in quotes,
mhm, mhm.
I got exposed to a little bit of the office work and a little bit of the backside and a little bit of the, and one of my least favorite things that I've been working on here recently, hotel reservations and things. And just, I
Oh,
got brought in a few times on, issues with student athletes and stuff. And, as a student athlete, obviously you realize there's issues, there's things, but you never have to like solve the problems
right,
or not solve the problems. And I feel like that probably takes place more than not is that like there maybe isn't a real solution to the problems and stuff like that. And every step, from going to that volunteer assistant to going to the assistant coach then, and then I, took over after 2 years, I became the director of cross country and head track and field coach. And again, another, jump. And I just think you don't know. And I don't know that there's any way that to prep people or like,
yeah,
I've tried with some of my assists, but there isn't because some of that stuff pops up and you do it. And I think some of the stuff we don't even realize necessarily that we do because we just do it.
right. I
And
I
then,
I think that's maybe not a big issue. Maybe that's not the right word. That's an opportunity for our coaches. I see this a lot, and kind of what I do. My whole thing is advocacy of coaching and the profession of coaches. So the people that become coaches, and how do we make that better? How do we make your job better? Which pay and all that, and job satisfaction is all part of that. And my experience talking to coaches around the country every day is we're not doing a we're not doing an adequate job of preparing our assistant coaches for future head coaches jobs, right? Even down to the GA. I don't know that, GA to me should be a very tryoutish period. Like I wish more people when they finish their GA in track and field didn't go into coaching. That sounds terrible, but what I mean by that is it should be like you should have the option to go or no go to that profession. You're getting a grad program in something else, biology, teaching, whatever. That should also be an option for you. It is, but we just automatically assume like, oh, you GA'd for track. Well, that means you went on to become a track and field coach. But there should be an out there. But even in the GAs, I think they should be more involved in, well, hey, here's what I do as the head coach, or here's what I do as the position coach that you're assigned to, scheduling, budgeting, equipment purchasing, academic, whatever. So they start seeing like, oh, wait a minute, I thought I just had to be on the track and yelling splits and writing that stuff down. I thought when I went back to the office, all I had to do was write workout. That's what the office is for. That's where I write the workouts. Like, oh, no, no, buddy, that's I think you said earlier, that's the fun part of the job, writing
mhm,
workouts and implementing them. The job is these other 100 things that you have to do. So you were at Edinburgh for 2 years and then became the head coach, the director. Okay,
mhm.
I love this. First of all, okay, you have great self-awareness, Anne. So let's see how you answer this. Were you ready?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you.
But I will say I worked under Doug Watts.
Hmm.
Phenomenal,
Yep.
phenomenal coach. So, I mean, like I said, I had Kip, I had Doug, I
Yeah,
work
it's
under
true.
D Brown now.
Yeah.
I'm so lucky for the people. And, you talk about like stuff in, I know you're big in coaching education and the coach association stuff, people
Yeah.
that were so big in that, like just kind
Yeah.
of the behind the scenes and the inside I've gotten because of them. No, I think, I knew I wasn't necessarily ready,
Yeah.
but you just hear horror story, like I knew who I was going to work for when I went to work for Doug, like I interviewed
Right.
for that position with him as a head coach. If they just brought in another head coach, I don't get a say in who my boss is. When you go to be an assistant coach, to an extent, you get, like I could have said,
Right.
I don't want to work there. I
You
don't
had a
want to work for
choice.
them. I
That's
don't,
right.
yeah. I think I maybe didn't vet it as much as I did when, 2 years ago when I came to work for
Hmm.
D Brown, where I called
Hmm.
multiple people and asked about, and things like that. But you have that choice.
Hmm.
And yeah, I was just kind of worried. So I just kind of said, take it or leave it. You either need to promote me or I'm going to leave. And
Yeah.
no hard feelings either way. I was what 26 years old and
Mhm.
and actually phenomenal AD Bruce Bumgardner. I don't know if you follow wrestling at all.
Yeah.
Yes. So he was my AD.
I was gonna say I know that name. So
Yes.
really, is that
Yes.
right? Big
Mm-hmm.
legend. I mean, legend.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wait,
Four-time
wait a
Olympian.
minute, wait a minute. So this is a big dude, and could probably beat me up with his pinky. And you looked at him like, look, man, either you promote me, don't hit me, or
It, I
let me go.
probably wasn't that cocky, but that's kind of the way it went. But Bruce was a phenomenal AD, and I always felt like I could actually talk to him.
That's cool. That's great. I
So it
love that.
was, and it was just, but he brought me in after they had promoted me and,
Mhm.
said very, like, he's like, I've been to conventions, I've done. He goes, one of the biggest reasons for women getting out of coaching is because we promote them too early, too young and too early for jobs they're not prepared for.
Yeah.
And we burn them out. And we,
Mhm.
and he's like, I kind of feel a little bit like we did that with you. So come and talk to me. Always come and talk to me. My door's always open. I might tell you no. And he would. There was times I went in and I'd get done and he'd be like, okay, are you venting? Are you like, are you
Yeah,
looking for a solution? Are you like, what are you? And I'm like, I don't even know. But like,
dude.
I never felt like I couldn't go and talk to him. And
I w-
I still, if something would come up, I still feel like I could pick up the phone and call him.
I was just this weekend was at a convention for athletic directors, and I don't have a lot of necessarily contact, obviously coaches, right? But this was 100 ADs of colleges around the country, and was really struck by some of the speakers about like, hey, we're leading coaches and athletes, and what you just said there about like for him to have that awareness of like, hey, I don't know if we're doing that necessarily here with you, but I'm
I think he
concerned.
probably said we did, which he
Yeah,
wasn't wrong.
but I'm saying like
Yeah.
instead of just like, hey, Ann, I gave you the job, go do the job. Like I could easily see an AD saying that, right? It's like, hey, man, you wanted the
Oh, they
job,
do all the time.
right? You told me you want the job, go do the job. Like, but even to like that form of questioning of like, hey, so are you venting? Are you wanting to like? I love that. Like, so let me know what you're looking for, and I can operate in that. Like, that's some high level empathy for your coaching staff there. That's respectful from him, and he could have just body slammed you. That's the amazing part. He could have just been like, get out
Very
of here.
easily. Yeah. Probably just a stiff. Yeah. It
So,
wouldn't have taken much.
how many years did you spend as the head coach of Edinburgh?
I was 10 years.
10 years. Okay.
Yeah.
My favorite question. I ask this of everybody when they get their first head coaching job, when we get to that part of their journey. And they're very similar questions. The first question is, as you look back now, what was something as you stepped into the head coaching position, what was something you thought was going to be hard that ended up actually being easy?
Oh gosh, something I thought was going to be hard.
So as you're thinking about that, so you went in thinking like, oh, you know what? I got to set my own budget. I've never set a budget before, and then you got
My
into
budget was ridiculous. I almost got in trouble a couple times my
I,
first couple of years.
I hear that a
Not
lot. Yeah, yeah,
almost. I think I probably
yeah,
did
yeah.
get in trouble.
But just
And then,
something you thought like,
but
oh man, I didn't know I was gonna have to go sit on committees to hire the coaches. Then you got there and you're like, oh, actually, I kind of have a knack for that.
um, I think it was a lot of like the transportation and like travel and stuff like that.
Hmm.
There's just so much to goes into it. Like I say, I feel like all we do when we go on trips, like national trips and stuff like that, is roommates and feed. All we do is feed them. All we do is eat the entire time. I swear. I'm like,
Just scheduling meals. Yeah.
can't we take a meal off? How can you guys be hungry again? But I think it was some of that stuff, and maybe, like I said, not realizing to the aptitude. Now, I sit down and do my itinerary, and it's every lunch and every, like breakfast usually at the hotel, and then
Right,
every
right.
lunch and every dinner. And there were a couple times I forgot meals early on. Not
You
gonna
can
lie.
forget a lot of things. Don't forget
They
meals.
all survived. They
Yeah.
all, they all
That's a good
always
point.
survived.
That's right. That's right. Okay. The inverse is my next question. So you get named the head coach. You think you know what that means. You've had head coaches, so you're like, oh, I know what Kip did,
Mhm.
and you thought like, oh, you know what's going to be easy. I'm gonna just this budgeting. It's going to be super simple. And then you got into it. It was like, oh, I didn't know this is what the real job was. What did you think was going to be easy? And you're like, oh, I had to learn something about that.
Right. I think, and I still struggle with this at times, is kind of managing assistants. Is
Ah,
that I don't want to say, I want to say be friends, but like I think because I'm so much, I'm going to go do stuff and I'm going to go that I'm not always great at giving instructions and giving. And sometimes it's like, well, what do you mean you didn't do X, Y, and Z? Like I did, I talk about, we talked about before that, like you couldn't even write down all the things you do. If somebody said,
right.
write down your job so we can give your job description, you could never do that. And I think that's at times that I'm managing my assistants.
Yeah. And that is an aspect when I talk about I believe it's a missed opportunity of helping assistant coaches become future head coaches is when you become a head coach, there's no training of hiring, firing, evaluating staff. It's like, oh, hey, you're the head coach. Maybe you have to immediately start answering the question like, what do you want to do with the people that are hired right now? You get the choice. You can let them go. You can keep them. Oh, you got a slot open. Yeah, go hire someone. You're like, I mean, what does that mean? I mean, okay, I know I need a throws coach. Okay, yeah, that helps, but what am I looking for? Am I just looking for someone who's nice, like I get along with? That might be a part of the wants, but that can't be the only part of the description that matches, But we don't do any training of that with our track coaches, and I'm probably afraid that we don't do that with any of our sport coaches, but track specifically, we don't. We just put you out there and say, go hire. Oh, and figure out how to fire if you have to get to that, evaluations. I should really say evaluation, not fire, but evaluation, so that if you do have to get to that point, you've done all your ducks in a row of what that means. None of that is in training until you're in the muck and have to actually do it. And then that's a little too late. You're up against the pressure at that point.
Yeah, I heard, and I'm pretty sure it was another sports coach. They always talked about, you always have to have in mind who your next assistant's going to be, who
Mhm.
your next. And I'm like, good luck with that, because I don't know any track coaches that can do that. Like, I could tell you who I wanted, but
Right,
then,
right, right.
like, do they want to come to Fort Dodge? Is our pay
Right,
better? Is our, like, is our situation, like,
right,
you
right.
heard him say that. I don't remember. And I think it was a basketball coach.
Yeah.
Um, and I just kind of laughed. I'm like, well, that's great. That's great
Yeah.
if you're at Duke and everybody wants that
Yeah,
job.
yeah.
That's great.
I was like, that
But
sounds like a power four,
yeah,
like, okay, I got some options when I'm at Vanderbilt or Georgia or whatever.
yeah.
When I'm at Iowa Central, it's like, okay, I know who I'd love to hire, but you know what? The pay is X, or, we're in Fort Dodge. Fort Dodge is not for everybody. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there's just
Yeah,
so
yeah.
many things that go into, and I think hopefully a lot of coaches, but I talk to a lot of people that are, and I'm happy where I'm at. I don't need
Yeah.
5,000 more dollars.
Right.
I'm happy, and there's so much that goes into. And I talk to coaches, I talk to, do you like your administration? Do you like, things like
Right.
that? And they're like, I don't need a $10,000 raise to be miserable. I don't
Right.
need, like
Right.
if you're in a good position, if you like where you're at, like don't young coaches don't leave a good situation for a few extra $1,000. It will not be worth it.
Dude, this convention I was just at, and probably by the time you're listening to this is maybe already run as a bonus episode. I got to record a few of the ADs and their presentations that I thought would be applicable to our audience, to some of our audience anyway. And the first one, in fact, he was the very first presentation of the whole show, was Mike. I think it's Herman. He's the athletic director at University of Illinois Springfield, and he was talking about the things that he requires from his staff and his head coaches of, they have to be involved in some kind of charity in the area, United Way, whatever, Salvation Army, you get to pick. For his basketball coach, as an example, he makes the basketball coach, you have to know every head high school basketball coach in the county, like all these kind of things, right? And I was like, oh, I wonder, and I meant to ask him this. I was like, I wonder if that type of community engagement with his staff and coaches, that that just has to have a positive effect on coaching retention. Like
I would,
when I think about like the way you said that just a minute ago made me think about it, when you're like, oh, I'm weighing to take this other job for 5,000, and I'm not. For some people, depending on where you are on that pay scale, and trust me, I know track coaches, this may be doubling your salary, sadly. But instead of, $5,000, which at the end of the day, after you take out taxes, is, we're talking about a couple hundred a month is what you really are netting. Is it worth it? I built a community. I built neighbors. I know people at the church. I know people at this charity that I sit on the board or whatever. I know all the high school coaches in the county. I think it helps keep your coaches, your retention rate until the hopefully, I'm getting a $50,000 raise. Hey, that's real money. You can go find community somewhere else too, brother. Good luck. Go. I bless you for that. But it just makes me think about that. I guess it goes back to, what's the old saying, grass is greener on their sides. Like, yeah, well, maybe because there's a lot of manure over there. If you've got a good situation, man, you got to really start thinking hard about at the end of the day, what is really 5,000 for the year? Again, it's $100 a month. I mean, is that really worth it? Is that worth the gamble? You're really gambling because you don't
right.
know what you think that other situation is.
Well, and that's,
So,
during interview processes, just like you are, everyone's on their best behavior. You're not
mm,
learning anything about people through
true.
that, so that's again, I talked about, but when you go somewhere, they, you should be interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, and you should be doing kind of, I don't want to say background checks, but reference, there we go, that's the word. Reference,
Yes.
kind of your own reference checks on, people in your community, in track and field, but I don't think any sports community is that big,
No, but
people
you're
know people, and how do they act when things didn't go their way at the meet? How did they act when an athlete
spot
didn't do what
on.
they were supposed to do, like, and are those values going to line up with your values? I've been, very lucky, with Doug Watts and now with D Brown, that I feel like our values and the way we wanted to treat athletes and the way we're looking to, you know, develop the entire athlete, not just trying to,
Yeah.
make them better athletes and ship them on, especially at the community college level. There's some
Right.
places that they're doing that. They're just trying to push people as high
Yep.
as they can so that it looks good on their school. That's definitely
Yep.
not what
Yep.
we're trying to do.
Yep.
And I just think that's so important that, your staff's values align,
Yep.
because it's not going to work if they don't.
I think more people should pull themselves out of the job interview process than they do. No one does. They get told, "Hey, we're not moving on." But more people, to your point about they should be interviewing the job as well, the job giver, and be real. Like when you say I mean, gosh, man, you nailed it. Because what you deal with there as hiring and evaluating assistant coaches, we same thing when I'm hiring and evaluating our sales team here. When we get into interviews, and I'm just like, all right. So I've got Anne, the interviewee, in front of me. I don't want to talk to Anne, the interviewee. And the interviewee is sitting up straight and is trying to figure out, well, what is this person looking for so I can act like that. And it's like, dude, I just want to know Anne. Because if Anne isn't going to fit in here, I don't want to give her the job because she's going to be miserable. I'm going to be miserable. No one wins.
Mhm.
But if I get the real Anne, it's like, oh yeah, man, Anne's going to kick butt here. She's going to be happy. We're going to be happy. Like we need to get to our real selves, even if that air quotes cost us the job. You know what I'm saying?
But hopefully, in the long run, it's better for like you said, it's better for everyone. It may
And both, yes.
be better for some people to not get jobs and to
Yep.
not, because they're definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and both the interviewer, we're playing a stage, a Broadway here. It's like, oh, well, I'm the interviewer here, so I need to, and when we look at our long jump coaches, we like, who are you? Like, hey, Ann, so tell me more. Tell me how you coach. Let me hear that. Like, be yourself, so that again, Ann can be like, ooh, I don't like. I'm not sure I could deal with Mike's style every day. And, it's coaching. We're going to be pretty intimate. We're going to be see each other a lot. I'm not sure this is the right job for me. Because again, you're not going to be happy, which means I'm not going to be. We just need to start being more real in our interviews. And again, telling removing ourselves like, hey, you know what, coach, I'm so grateful you thought of me to bring you in. I'm going to take myself out of the running. It's just not the right fit for me today, and move on. I'd have so much respect. If someone said that, I'd actually probably beg them for another interview. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is the kind of attitude I want in life. Hold on, man. Let's talk. Let's go through a round two. All right. It's amazing this game we play for very high stakes, by the way. This is your career, your profession, as paychecks that help your family and passions and charities and things. So it's amazing to me. All right, so you're Edinburgh, you're the head coach. What's the first thing you do? And when I say that, I mean like you knew you want to either be the head coach or or I need to go somewhere else.
Mhm.
So was there, did you already start having a vision of what Anne Cleary's head coach of Edinburgh, what that program looks like? Did you already start having that? And what was maybe one of the first things you put into motion?
So, with Doug, and Doug was the head track and field, head cross country, but he was cross country and I was track, and I was very fortunate, even though I was young, and he let me run my program. So for the first couple months and stuff, he wanted to see workouts. There was times he said, which 100%, I had no problem. I would have no problem with giving him everything all the time. That's when you're the
Right.
assistant coach, that comes with it. But he let me run my program and let me. So from kind of that track and field side of things, I don't want to say maybe there wasn't as many
Hmm.
major changes because
Yeah.
I was already getting to at least run my event groups and stuff like that. And
Right.
it was only the two of us, so I ran the 400 meters and down in
Wow.
the field events. We had a volunteer pole vault coach.
Yeah.
So, I was doing it all. So
I hate
from
that.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like not giving you the support you need. That'd be like saying, yeah, we're gonna have a football team. You're the offensive coach, you're the defensive coach. Go.
yeah.
No one ever
It's
does that. But yet we do it
right.
track and field all the
In track
time.
and field all the time. There's so many, yeah, and obviously there's no way a coach can't be, there's only so many hours in the day, but at the same time, depending on your school, there's only so many hours you can really practice too. Um, I was fortunate some semesters that we'd get, small pockets of kids and we'd be able to have a practice at 11 in the morning
Right.
and, two. And then there's times that I wasn't and we were running two different practices that should have each had a coach at them at the same time, things like that. So, um, but yeah, it is too bad in our sport that, yeah, that, we can,
When a school talks about the desire to have a great student athlete experience and then does that, and I'm sorry, I'm not picking on Edinburgh, but I also don't allow for the excuse to be like, well, we don't have the resources that a Penn State had. And it's like, I don't think I agree with that, but you have priorities. I guarantee you there was an extra staff member at this sport that didn't need it, or an extra amount of budget over here that you didn't need. Like it was priorities on what they did for their budget. And by the way, you can insert Edinburgh, you can insert a lot of other institutions. I just feel like if you are going to have a team, any team, specifically track and field, we're talking about here in cross country, but any sports team, you should support it. That is my pet peeve with institutions is the ones that say, yeah, we've got track and they've got two coaches. Oh, and
right.
by the way, I expect you to have 100 kids. Oh, and I expect you to be on this committee and I expect you to balance your budget, which doesn't sound like you did, Ann. But other
I just didn't do that part because I didn't have time. That's why I just
exactly.
didn't do that.
Oh, that's right. Oh, and by
Yeah.
the way, we would love for you to have a personal life and maybe have a spouse and children and things like that. That's just free time, right? That you just don't even need to count for those hours. No, those are big hours as well in your life and high priority. So that's just my pet peeve. You were saying something. I cut you off.
I don't remember. Oh, but from that standpoint, maybe I got to implement a little bit more of me. But one of the things I really enjoyed is, I was the assistant women's track coach, but then when I took over, I was the director of cross country. We had a cross country coach as well. I got to be so much more involved in the cross country side of things and so much. And like I always kind of say, it's, when I'm with the track kids, I kind of have to be the mean coach and we have to do things, we have to, do what we're supposed to do and all this stuff. And then the cross country, I'm just like hanging out, and I was usually getting yelled at by the head track coach or the head cross country coach because I was the one having side conversations with the kids and
Because
stuff.
you're not coaching.
Because I'm not, like
Yeah, I've seen
I'm
it.
not,
It's
yeah,
not you're not like, okay, I get it ready for the workout. No, you're just there to
yeah.
assist and you tell me
I'm
what
just
you
there. Yeah.
want.
Oh, you need me to hold a stopwatch? You need me? I'm just here. So yeah. So there were lots of times all my assistant coaches would say, like, we hate when you're at practice. You're more of a distraction than you are help.
Right, right,
But
right.
that's kind of, that's it kind of gets to be the fun side of things because when
Yeah.
I'm, at my long jump practice it's, we're going to warm up and we're going to do this. Or I shouldn't say I'm the mean coach, though my
Right.
athletes probably feel that way too. But, yeah, but that's like kind of, when I get to do the fun stuff because I'm not the one in charge at that time. So that
Right.
was, you know,
That makes
kind of a
sense.
fun change and things like that. And something, um, the way we're structured and stuff, I still get to do some stuff with the cross country team and
Mhm.
stuff, but with our larger team and things like that, I don't as much at Iowa Central. It's definitely something I miss. I like just getting to go
Yeah.
hang out.
As you said 10 years at Edinburgh, I think, right? As
Mhm.
you look at those 10 years, look back at it now, how did you grow as a coach during that time? What are some things when you look back, you're like, oh man, at the end of 10 years, I was better at X or Y and Z.
I think I was much better at listening and kind of taking constructive criticism, even from athletes. I think that's very important. It needs to be constructive in the right way. And I always tell kids is that I also get like, if what you're saying, like, because sometimes you get kids that, well, you're never at our practice and you're always at this practice. And I'm like, well, that's actually not true. If you look at this, I'm at this practice 3 days a week and this practice 2 days a week, and then we practice at another time. So just because I'm not at your practice 2 days a week, and when I'm not at your practice, I'm at this practice. So I always say, like it's not fair to get, to say things and not get to see the bigger picture because, like you said, as a student athlete, as anybody, as an assistant coach, you don't see the whole picture. As I
Right.
go in and complain to my AD that football and basketball have this and I don't, and they're like, well, no, that's not true. Because
Right.
again, I don't see everything.
Right.
But I think I've become so much better at being able to sit and listen, even, to athletes, assistant coaches, athletes and stuff is, where can I make changes? How could I have done that different? Things like that. Again, all within reason.
Yeah.
But I think I've become much more understanding and grown in that I can listen and we can make changes and stuff. And maybe again, it kind of goes the same, but like if there's athletes that have done something a certain way, a thing that I definitely would not have done 10 years ago, 12 years ago. If there's an athlete that's struggling, now I bring them in and what did you do in high school that worked? What did you do at your other school that worked?
Mm.
And why is it just growing pains? Is it just your freshman year and everything's different and everything, is it just that or is it that you don't work in my like my program doesn't work
Right.
for you and is there adjustments we can make that make it work for you? And I don't have a problem doing that any, like whereas yeah, 10, 12 years ago it was, kind of the my way or the highway
Right.
and this is the way we're going to do it and you fit into my program or you leave. Well, that doesn't necessarily need to be the way it is because we can make
Right.
adjustments and we can not that we can run 15 different practices,
Right.
but you can be a little bit different and you can do things a little bit different than someone else.
Share with me a story of how you learned that. And what I'm thinking about here is it's probably not something that was acute, meaning something, very specific, like, oh, athlete X came in and I was ready just to tell him or her, well, then this is not the program for you. And I was struck by lightning and I realized, wait a minute, I should listen to this person. It's usually like, after a frustrating season, I took a step back or I had a mentor. I was talking to a mentor. My AD was like, hey, here's something I'm noticing when I observe. Share the story of like, because you had to learn that. You talked about you're better at the end of 10 years as you were in year zero from that. How'd you learn that?
So I used to try to always do, and now it's a little harder with the way we're set up, but and I have so many more kids, it becomes a little harder. But I used to do, exit interviews at the end of every year with students, and with the kids that were graduating. I kind of said, you're leaving now. Be brutally honest.
Yeah.
Um, and I think at that point too, they're older and more mature. It's not an 18-year-old that thinks, it's a 22-year-old that says, you did this, this, and this really, really good, but
Right.
this is what we were missing, and if you could just tweak. And I had a couple different kids, come in and say,
Yeah.
at times when I was really struggling, I didn't feel like I could come in. And and I don't feel that way now, but when I, was a freshman or I
Right.
was a sophomore, I felt that way.
Hmm.
And as I got to know you and we got a better relationship, then I didn't feel that way. But like, what can we
Right.
do to make me feel that way when I'm a
Yeah.
when I'm a
Early. Right. Right. Right.
early on.
Yeah.
Like I said, and some things with freshmen are growing pains too. Freshman year, the high school to college jump is a big jump, and
Sure.
there's
The
so
biggest.
many things that go into it that have nothing to do with track and field.
Right. I like to say that ego is not bad. Bad ego is bad, right?
Mhm.
Ego helps us, dress better, want a more responsibility job. The ego, that's good ego. Bad ego is my way or the highway and things like that. So how did you, when you start getting some of these, brutally honest, and I'm sure you're the type of person that, as you heard a senior say this, go, man, I wish you would have had, and I get it that you didn't, but I wish you would have had the maturity to tell me that in your freshman year. Like, man, we could have had the first couple of years could have been great, like the last couple of years were. So, how did you, as you hear this, because sometimes that's hard, that's hard to, even for a kid, you're like, man, I don't care, you gone. I will never see you again. Even for that, it's like, there's still like a little bit of an arrow that comes
Mhm.
at you. How did you stave off the defensive side of it of "Oh, that person's wrong. Well, they are so wrong. They don't get the whole picture. They don't know everything that I'm going through," and really open up the, oh, I should listen to this. And maybe they may be wrong. That's still absolutely, maybe that individual, but maybe they're right. So maybe I should look into how did you, stay away from the defensive, I'm right, you're wrong, and really be open and humble yourself. How did you do that?
Well, I think it was, a couple of them came in and, we kind of talked about the good and the bad.
Hmm.
So it wasn't, you always talk about when you try to go tell somebody you need to make it a sandwich. You need to tell somebody something good, then tell them something bad, and then sandwich it. So I think it was done because it was done in that way. And
Ah,
then they were athletes at that point, they'd been there for 4 or 5 years, and I'd had
right.
such a good relationship with them that I knew we grew past that.
Uh-huh.
And then it's just figuring out, like you said, how can that happen earlier? And
Yeah.
so, a question I like to ask now a lot in sometimes it's in disciplinary situations, sometimes it's in other situations, and just kind of get their perspective of things. Of how, a question is, pretend you're the head coach now. What do you think your punishment should be? How do
Yeah.
you think I should punish your teammates? How do you think?
Yeah.
And sometimes too, that helps me see, like in some cases, one, do they really understand the gratitude of what, because I've had kids before, they're like, I had a kid a couple of years ago that was, well, if other kids did it, they should be punished, but I shouldn't because I didn't understand. And I was like, okay, you just proved to me that you don't, like, you still don't understand.
You don't
But in
understand.
some, yeah, in
The
some
most
cases I
truthful
have,
thing you said, you don't
yeah,
understand.
but, and I've also have kids that are like, I should sit out of a meet. Or I should sit out, or I should sit out. And then in some cases, that opens up to have a conversation, and maybe they don't even need a punishment at that point because they get it.
Right.
And that's something, a 26-year-old Coach Ann would not have done,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it would have
yeah.
been, you're sitting out of a meet, this is the rule. And obviously some things we do, we have some black and white rules
Yeah.
that aren't, it doesn't matter that you admitted that what you did was wrong and what, we have some black and white rules.
Right.
But a lot of what we do is not black and white. And I always
Yeah.
tell kids
Absolutely.
that, every situation is handled differently because every person is different and every person handles a situation differently. Had a
Right.
great example that happened one time when I was at Edinburgh. We had morning practice a lot, and I had two kids that missed morning practice. One of them texted me. It was, I think, the first time they'd ever missed practice. They texted me about 10, 15 minutes after practice. I'm so sorry. I overslept. I already checked your calendar, the schedule, and there's another group in there at 11 o'clock. I don't have class. Can I come make up the workout? Yes. Another
Wow.
kid, nothing all day long. They've missed lots of practices. This is a common. They show up to practice the next day. All practice, nothing. I have to pull them
Yeah.
aside at the end of practice and say, why'd you miss practice yesterday? Those two situations were not handled the same.
Different. Yeah.
The initial thing they did wrong was exactly the same.
Yeah.
But, the one kid, I bet him waking up and realizing he was late was probably punishment enough.
Yeah.
And then the whole situation was resolved. The other kid, the situation was technically never resolved. He never made up that practice. He never, it just went on with his day like nothing happened. So, but yeah, I think that's, in talking to some of these kids and then realizing, yeah, that sometimes, sometimes the stress of them having to come and tell us what they did wrong and stuff is punishment
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
And
It's hard to teach ourselves. Like it's rare that we can actually teach ourselves stuff, right? It has to, in a traditional sense of education, it has to come from a book or a professor. Some things have to come through a life experience. But a lot of times in our profession of coaching, it comes from because we have people who made those mistakes before us. We have mentors, whether it's an athletic director, a former coach, a coach that you've gotten to know through your own career. As you think about, I love this, I really appreciate your just openness and authenticity over this growth that you had, specifically here at Edinburgh, because I can see where it has paid off in spades for the rest of your career, like here at
mhm,
Iowa Central, and will continue. Like this was maybe you don't think of it every day of like, well, what a pivotal part of my career, but this is an obviously pretty important growth for Anne, for Coach Cleary here. Was there that mentor? Was there someone, you're like, man, I'm getting a couple arrows slung at me. Hey, coach, you know me better than anybody, or mom, dad, there's mentors come in all form of fashion. Was there someone, or is there someone today, like you're like, oh yeah, you know who's on my speed dial, man, I call, Joe up because he'll let me talk his ear off, and then he gives me that one word nugget advice that just sets me off. Anybody like that during this time or
I
today?
don't know that there's been one, I've
Hmm.
been fortunate when I had some assistant coaches, stuff like that. And I'm still really big on telling kids, like, I need to go talk to the other coaches or I need to go talk to, and sometimes it's just, even saying it out loud, or it just helps to either one, have somebody say, you're, and many of them, you're overreacting.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's,
yeah.
and like you said, you've got to have people in your corner that will be honest with you.
Kind of a gut check is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Like, hey,
Um,
assistant,
yeah.
here's what I said. You just made a face. You think I stepped over there? Let me know now. Okay, yeah.
So also very lucky. My husband was a Division II basketball coach for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
So yes, so a lot of, a lot of the same, we all have the same issues. We
Yeah, yeah,
all,
yeah.
so obviously some of the track and field things, maybe not as much, but yeah, some of the kind of personnel or the disciplinarian
Sure, sure.
stuff, like,
They're kids.
you
They
know,
just play a ball
yeah,
instead of run track. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. The difference there, but I do try to always, I don't even necessarily want to say sleep on it. Maybe that's not always,
yeah.
but I need to run this past someone else and I'll get back to you. Or I need to, I try not to, unless, like I said, it's some of our black and white, we have a zero alcohol
Non-negotiables.
policy on
Yeah,
Iowa Central's campus. If you were caught with alcohol, you were out of the next meet, no questions asked,
right.
there's no
Yeah,
due process. There was alcohol
yeah.
in your dorm. That's it. There's no, to say there's not a due process, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
black and white.
It's already
I don't have to,
processed.
yeah, I don't have to run that past anyone and stuff. But
Yeah,
yeah, some of the other issues and we said that everybody is different and every
yeah,
situation is different and how kids handle
yeah.
situations are different.
It's interesting and kind of special to me when we have someone on who's a coach's kid. Their mom or dad was a coach. Here's a pretty unique, and I'm sure we've had this before, but it just kind of really just strikes me with you. So you're a I almost said a coach's spouse, but he's a coach's spouse too.
Yes.
You're a coach's couple.
There we go. Yeah.
Now that's
He
unique.
now he works in academic advising now. But
Yeah,
yes.
but give me a little bit of a timeline. So, because I'm kind of like in my head, I'm in the middle of Edinburgh. We're getting close to the
Yeah,
10
nope. We
year.
were in we were married for 6 years when I was at Edinburgh.
Okay, so during
So we
Edinburgh.
met at Edinburgh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
that's interesting because I think of I have so much respect for spouses of track coaches and all coaches, but again, I focus on track, right? Like I remember meeting Pat Henry, Texas A&M.
Yes.
I met his
I
wife.
know of him. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I believe her name is Judy, I think. She was Mrs. Henry to me, but I met them in a elevator once. And I looked at her and I said, because they've been married forever. I love it. It's just, I mean, it's the sweetest thing in the world. And I asked her, I was like, so did were you into track before you and Pat met? And she's like, oh no, never. And I was like, I surely hope you have like learned to love track because she's at all the meets. She's there. And
Hmm.
I was like, like, do you like it now? She's like, oh yeah, it's so great. And I was like, man, Mrs. Henry, you've been at all of the, Pat's been there and he's working, he's coaching and, hustling and bustling. And I'm sure she probably helped the team out, but, I just picture her just, she's sitting in the stands watching the, whatever team, LSU, A&M, whatever team, she was at the time and just, being there and supporting Pat in many, many ways. And so for spouses of coaches, like I have a huge part in of my heart for them. And they're gone. She went to, I think, I don't know when she started, but she goes to all the meets now. Uh, but I think about spouses that can't, whether it's children or they got their own jobs and things like that. So a coach is gone all the time, and you're left holding the bag. You're the one that's holding the household down. So spouses are amazing. Here are two spouses. One's track. Basketball has its own. They're gone a lot. There's a lot of
Hmm.
freaking basketball games, and they got to freaking recruit and everything too. How did you two? I always kind of ask things crudely. How did you handle this? Like, how did you find your groove? Maybe that's the right way to say it. Of like, man, you're gone for these 3 days because you're recruiting and you got a tournament. And I'm going to be at Drake Relay, so I'm gone for the week or whatever. Like, how did you find groove with another person who, we know how busy coaches are. They're also that busy then.
A lot of babysitters, a lot of so, we were fortunate. It's a different, we were at a 4-year school. We lived zero point 0.8 miles from campus.
Wow.
So it was super easy for kid, even if somebody had to walk over or somebody had to, you do things like that, it was super easy for us to have sitters and stuff. But yes, had to be very organized with babysitters and things
Yeah.
like that. It is much easier now that he's in academic advising and is off every day at 4 o'clock, and I am not. So it has made our life way, way easier in
Yeah.
that aspect. But yeah, it just was a lot of organizing and figuring out, babysitters and
Yeah.
things.
And you mentioned babysitting. I appreciate that. You kind of give me the door open then to ask that. I don't know if it's an obvious question because I sometimes wonder, and maybe struggle is the right word. Um, I sit in the seat that I sit in, meaning I'm a white male. All right. And so, like, one of the questions, I think I'm batting 100% on this because I kind of made it a my mission that every time I interview a, a coach who's a female, that I don't ask, so what's it like coaching guys? Because it never would occur to me to ask a guy coach, well, what's it like coaching women, right? So I've like made it my mission. Don't ever ask that. Um, However, in society, I don't think this is a bias. I think this is society, whether it's right or wrong, and maybe it tends towards the wrong side. Uh, there is, I don't know if it's undue, maybe it's undue expectations is the right word of the woman in the relationship to be of the mom of the relationship. Yeah, the mom, the wife
Yes.
who becomes the mom. I'm asking this so awkwardly now, Anne.
That's
Uh,
okay. You're okay.
is that there's expectations of the well, first of all, there is maybe undue expectations of just the wife itself, dishes, dinner, etc. And then with the mom, it's even more of like, well, yeah, dad's there to support, but you take care of the child, right? So how did you and were there discussions of maybe not? How did you handle as you start, family planning, having children? I'm going to keep a career. I'm not going to keep a career. Boy, you're a basketball coach. Maybe I don't need to work. Hey, I'm a track coach, and I don't know that I could do anything else but that. So I am going to stay working. Whatever you feel led to share, how did you handle? And that sounds bad because it's your child. How did you handle
That's
having a
okay.
kid? Like you broke
No,
your
but no,
leg or
but it is.
something.
It
But
it it is. It was way easier before, because now you have somebody else to worry about all the time, and they have to eat again. All
yeah,
this all
there's
this
that
eating
food.
we do, all this eating we do. But no, me not working was never again all over the place.
Oh,
More
right.
respect in the entire world for stay-at-home moms, but that
Amen.
is not
Amen.
that is not my jam.
Hmm.
And I'm not great at the housekeeping. In fact, one time we were talking with my daughter about, how girls can do anything, and you can be anything you want to be when whatever. We're giving her that spiel one time, and she goes, "Yeah, but girls don't clean." It's like, you're right, they don't. So
That's kind
I
of
feel
cool.
like that should be a flex for my
Yeah,
husband.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's
That,
pretty cool.
yeah, yeah, I think he feels like all he's ever doing is cleaning up our house and things like that. Um, but I think we very much just kind of both, we were older when we got together. I was 30, he was 41 when we got
Mhm.
married.
Yeah.
So we both already kind of lived our lives and knew what we were good
Mhm.
at and bad at. So I think we kind of naturally fell into roles at home of what we did and stuff like that. And some of that continued, but I think we knew me not coaching was not going to be an option,
Mhm.
because, or not working at least,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because there's no way, like I said, more power. It's not, but
Right.
it's not for me. I can't.
Yeah.
He probably would have been a phenomenal stay-at-home dad when she was little, though. He
Mm.
is great at that type of stuff, great at keeping up. That probably would have been more of his jam.
Yeah, yeah.
And I will say, one of the things I always laugh, and I get it, but there's always what coaches' wives posting things about how the hardest job in the world is being a coach's wife. The hardest thing. Well, like we got to flip that both ways, because there's the coaches' husbands too. And I feel like in general, there's probably less support out there for that side of things, because
Mm.
the women come together and do things, but are we doing that same thing for the husbands and for
Hmm.
the other side of things? We're very fortunate here, at Iowa Central and stuff. He hangs out with a lot of the other coaches and things like that. He works the scorers table for basketball games and does some of that stuff, so
Makes
he's still
sense.
involved.
Yeah.
D keeps our families very, it's very much a family atmosphere, that they're always welcome. He doesn't ever want to be on a bus ever again if it's up to him, so he doesn't necessarily travel on the bus, but when we're close and they're at meets and things like that. So But I think, yeah, it's just that balance of, and that was a big thing that, Kip and then Kirk Peterson as our distance coach both
Right.
pushed. Like when I went into, they're like, if you stay in coaching and your spouse, your husband's got to be involved and you got to have your kids involved, or else you don't see them. You don't.
Does that conversation happen a lot? Now it happened with you, but it feels like I don't ever know how to say it. I want to say a woman coach, but that makes me feel like I'm saying somebody who coaches women.
Right. Yeah.
So a coach who's a woman, that
Mhm.
sounds so clinical. But it feels like it's something we don't talk about when it comes to motherhood, in regards to I've got a teammate here. She just had a little baby girl, so sweet. She went on maternity leave. I
Mhm.
think we give 12 weeks or something like that. So I'm
Good for
seeing
you
it.
guys.
I know,
Good
I've
for
seen it
Jill.
forever. Oh yeah, we pay for maternity leave. So she gets paid during those 12 weeks. We're, I mean, you talk about family centric,
Mhm.
this place, it's amazing.
Now, do you do something for your dad?
No, and no one does, because on
Right.
the same thing, I have another teammate who just Nick, who just had a baby last Friday, and it's like I was like, so what's your plan? He's like, yeah, I'll probably stay home for a week, use vacation, and then I'll probably work from home, but I'll be working, and then I'll be back in the office. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it, but I had two myself, and I was like, I get it, but
Yeah.
um,
My husband was at media day that day. She was born at 2:40 in the morning and he was at
wow,
media day at like 11 a.m. or noon.
wow,
But
I
I got that
yeah, yeah,
because I
yeah,
was like it was never even a conversation. You talk about having conversations.
right, right,
Well, a
right,
lot of those things were never conversations
yeah,
because like of course you have to be at media day.
right, right,
Like you're the head coach, you're the face of the program and stuff. Like, obviously, had there been an issue, had I still been in, like, stuff like that, that would have been.
right, right,
But
right, right,
what was he gonna do? Sit in the
yeah.
chair next to me, like,
Right, 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 right.
So
What I'm wondering is that, it's like we don't have the conversation around, okay, so you had baby, that's awesome, you're a mom now. Well, there are things that mom does that no one else can do,
right, mhm.
not just with the baby, but just your own, your body, you just had a baby, things like that. But when you talk about track and track coaching, these are, 12-hour days is not that's not abnormal. That's normal in our lives. And having a baby with you, that's hard and things like that. Traveling to track meets, the track meet itself. How how did you navigate? Okay, I've got this little life I've got to take care of. Oh, and I have my job. I have my kids that my athletes I need to take care of. Oh, by the way, I'm a spouse. I have a husband that I want to be with. How did you handle still being a track coach and being a mom?
Yeah. So there were times that like I would bring her along and stuff. Like when she was little, that gets harder as they get more mobile and stuff. You have like and track meets are long. It's
Yeah.
not hard. We would if I was on the road and she had a sitter, that sitter in the basketball game was at home, the sitter would take her to the basketball game.
Mhm.
But on that flip side, it's not really fair to ask a sitter to, hey, come spend 12 hours at a track meet. Like
Ooh,
nobody,
how to lose a
um,
sitter.
yeah, but every now and then when she'd sometimes travel with us and I would bring a sitter and stuff so that,
Wow.
if there was, if something was happening and I couldn't be there at the
Mhm.
time, like she needed a diaper change, but we're long jumping, like
Right,
there
right,
was a sitter there and stuff like that.
right.
Um, Now she's 6 years old now. She loves to be around the team. She likes to be at practice. She thinks she's a coach though. She's not a member. Every now and then people are like, oh, are you on the team? She's like, ew, no, gross. I'm a coach. I'm not equals to these guys. You serious? But she doesn't necessarily have an interest in being at a track and field meet all day long.
Yeah,
So
hell,
that's
amen.
yeah, she did. Yeah,
I get
she
it.
came to the Iowa State track meet, high school meet with me for a day, so that was fun.
Mhm.
Um, so she does, some of that stuff. And then she was mad we couldn't be in the infield. She was like, how am I supposed to recruit? She likes to hand out business cards. How am I
No
supposed to
way.
Yes, how am I supposed to recruit in the stands? And I'm like, well, honey, they don't let us down in the infield. This isn't. Yeah, she was mad.
Oh my
So,
God, that's so
no, she
precious.
loves it and stuff. And I think having her around the kids as much as possible is great. Having my husband around as much as possible. And I think sometimes, I like to think we have a really great marriage and things like that. And, every kid hasn't been exposed to that. Every kid didn't
Right.
have mom and dad in the household. Whether that's they still had mom and dad and everything was great, or mom or dad was
Right.
never a part of like everybody comes. And I think it's important that they see that healthy relationship and that healthy, like I said,
Hmm.
I think that's what we have. And,
Hmm.
we try to show that to, to the athletes and to, and I talk about my husband and think, I talk about,
Mhm.
I got to
Mhm.
check in with Pat, or no, I have to do this today. I can't go do this because, Pat needs to go do something because I was gone all weekend. He
Yeah.
had the baby by himself all weekend long. He needs a night to go out and do something, or,
Yeah.
and just that balance and how that works in a healthy relationship and stuff. So I think it's very important that they, know they see me as a mom and a wife, and
Right.
because not all kids had that growing up and
Right.
have seen that, displayed for them.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's the role models that we play, and most of us are playing very positive role models, and some of us aren't. And we got to remember everybody's watching at all times, good and bad, and modeling off of that. Quick context question to set up my next question here. So you were at Edinburgh for 10 years, from Edinburgh to Iowa Central.
Yep.
Okay, and Iowa Central for I think you said three,
I'm just finishing my second year.
second year. Okay,
Yep. End of July will be the start of the third year.
perfect. And you've been a mom now for 6 years.
Mhm.
Are you seeing, do you have other female coaches coming up to you saying, "Hey, so how did you do it? I've thought about getting out when we're about to start a family," or "Hey, I've been watching you and I see she's there and she's actually seems like a recruiter of yours, but how are you doing it? Because I want to be able to do it." Are you like, is the discussion amongst women happening as well, or do women more feel like they're on their own to figure it out?
I think it depends on, I think people that maybe know me a little bit more. I had a friend who, and her sister was a volleyball coach, but maybe this is TMI, but I pumped for a year after, and she said, she goes, she's going back to work, she's coaching and stuff. The rundown, everything. What did you do? How did you do it? How do you, like,
Hmm.
it's,
Hmm.
and I am more than happy. Now I'm probably too far out if somebody would call me tomorrow to remember all the details and stuff. I was only about a year out at that time. But I think it's important, things keeping, there were meets we went to, Youngstown State, phenomenal. They put me up in, I think it was like the golf student athlete lounge area where I could pump. They asked me if I wanted a bottle of water. They asked me,
The,
they
the
were phenomenal.
the school,
At,
the host
at the
school.
school, yes, the host school. I went and found his, and I should know his name, I'm sorry, but his wife, they generally where she was, I'd go and find her. She would go open up this room for me. She would ask me if I went another place, and it was an outdoor place where, every year we'd go and the bathrooms would overflow and they were, and it's like, I can't, you can't do that in a bathroom stall. It needs to be somewhat sterile. Like, I don't have problems doing it in a very clean, nice, but I'm not doing it in the public.
Right.
And I asked if I could use the coach's offices, and they told me no and put me in the one stall bathroom that was for the officials, and it was one stall. A pump can take anywhere like up to a half hour, and I would have officials banging on the door and stuff, and it was, so as simple as having a place, and you don't need to get them a bottle of water. Truthfully, being in the coach's office would have been, I
Right.
just need to shut the door. If
Yeah.
they need to pop in or they need to, they can knock, and like,
Yeah.
it's not like it's, and more power to the, the women that breastfeed out in public and stuff and all that thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't my jam.
Uh,
Um, but like having a place for moms to do that, because
you
it's
know,
something that's already probably a little uncomfortable for some people and things like that. And just having, obviously they're still going to have to ask. I'm not asking you to put it in your meat information and
right.
stuff
That's
like that.
also,
But
yeah.
yeah, but every school should have a
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
that a coach can do that.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't think it's a problem having it be a clean, nice bathroom or an
Right.
office or something. But yeah, for it to just be like, oh yeah, you can go use that bathroom stall, or why is this a
Yeah.
problem?
I feel like if I were to ask 100 coaches, and they could be, the makeup could be 100 males, it could be 50-50. I feel like 100% would say, yeah, I care about keeping more women in our profession. Like, when I look at our athletes, big generalizations here, but it's roughly 50% of our college track athletes are male and roughly 50% are women. When I look at the coaching profession, it's not 50, and it doesn't necessarily, I'm not one of those guys who believes like, well, the percentage should be the exact same as the athletes, because
No.
it's a profession. We all have our choices to go do whatever job we want. But there maybe should be more percentage of our coaches being women than than lower. In fact, I have the same thoughts and feelings when I look at race as well. And again, big generalizations because I'm leaving out a lot of races here, but roughly when I look at athletes, it's 50% white and 50% black. And when I look at our coaches, I don't see that number being close, you know? So I feel like if I were to, ask 100 coaches, whether they're all males, all females, 50-50, I think a extremely high percentage, the 100 would say, yeah, I feel like, I would like to be part of the positivity of keeping women in our profession. And then you have an opportunity to like let another coach who's a mom who's maybe nursing feel very supported and you just drop the bomb. And we don't need to know that school or anything like that. This is more of like a PSA to anybody who's
Mhm.
listening of like, hey, just be conscious of it. Like if a coach, because I agree, because I was also thinking like, oh, so should we like when we invite Iowa Central to a meet, do we put on every questionnaire? Hey, do you have anybody on staff or athletes, by the way? Let's
Right. Yeah.
be real here. Any babies, so maybe
Yeah.
that's not the question, but and you were probably more back then proactive, like, hey, we're going to Youngstown State. I think Brian Riggins, I think is his name, the
There
head
we go.
coach there.
Yes.
Yeah, hey Brian, just boy, and I can just see you, man. It's not like you're like, hey Brian, do you have a castle with completely sterile? It's like, hey Brian, do you have any place that I might be able to? Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Brian gets somebody to take care of you. I think, I mean, that's minimal. Like, I think that's just like you were like complete like in fact it sounded like they went overboard like, oh, I don't need any water,
Yeah.
but that's amazing to me, right? But it's like, oh guys, when I say guys, I don't mean males, I mean all coaches and administrators that are involved in our sport. It's like we have an opportunity to not just say I'd really like to keep women in our profession, but to show, hey, if you're a woman and you become a mom in this profession, there's still a place for you. This is not an automatic, you need to go stay home with the child or go find another job. This is a profession. Coaching track and field is a profession for women who choose to be mothers, are welcome and supported and valued, just like a guy is. Women who aren't moms, black men, Asian women, this is a place, this is a profession for you. So we need to kind of put our actions in front of just our words. So I love hearing that some did, and I love hearing someone don't, because that means we have room to grow. So
Yeah. There.
maybe
Yeah.
maybe we get better then. What
But no,
advice?
I think, yeah, helping. And I try to make a point, when I see young moms and stuff and, when they have their kids, is just telling them, like, hey, you're being a great role model. Keep it up.
Mhm. Are
Because,
we one of the great programs we have in our profession is the Women's Coaching Forum. I'm not sure the exact name of it, but at USTF CCCA, I know a lot of the leaders there. They're amazing leaders, amazing women. Uh, are you involved in that at all? Like, have you attended or
um,
anything?
yeah, yes, I have attended. I think twice.
Are you having those are those I don't know. I'm not in the forum. No one's invited me yet, but are those the type of conversation? Like, is this because there's 100+ women coaches there? So are y'all having these conversations together or?
So I don't feel like yet there's as much as about being moms. And I
Sure,
think when
sure.
you look at some of the, coaches and stuff, is that they're younger and maybe not moms yet, or even they're older and they don't have kids.
That's
And
the younger ones are the time to have the conversation.
yeah, but then you need people that are older that are still in coaching, and I think so many of us get
Hmm.
out of it.
Yeah, that's
Or
that's
maybe there
that,
isn't
that's
the
that's why
people.
we've got to talk to the thinking about their age when they get out of GA, or call it 22 years old, 23, to 40-year-olds that, haven't had children yet, but are thinking like, well, I might want to start a family. That means I got to get out. That's when we need to have mentors with them that say, hey, no, 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 you don't have to get out. That you can, sure, that's an option, but you don't have to. Here's how I successfully navigate it. And here's someone else in their experience go, here's how I successfully navigated it. We got to get to them then, not when they're pregnant and starting to look for another job because they
Right.
can't they in their all that they have seen is, yeah, you can't do
Mhm.
this. You either have to have no children or you need to go get a different job if you're a woman who's a track coach, and that's not true. It's not true. Cool. I love it. We need to have those conversations, I think, more and more. And again, I also realize I'm a dude saying that, so maybe we
No,
don't,
but
maybe
I
we're having the
think,
right thing, but I want to support
but
that.
like like the majority
Yeah.
needs to push the topic and needs to push, and
Yeah.
and that's where it needs to come from.
And sometimes it's just knowing that is a topic out there. We get very in our zone. It's like, oh, I don't think about women coaches who become moms because I don't know, I'm coaching long jumpers, Mike. It's like, well, this is again, this is part of the, the fun part being on the track is, this small amount of the job. The other job is people and communications, and that's your staff and future staff and the future health of the profession. Okay, 10 years at Edinburgh.
Mhm.
Why leave and why come to Iowa Central?
So I am now 2.5 hours from my parents,
Homebody, you said.
which is yes, which is phenomenal in having
Mhm.
um a young kid. Also we have a staff of 5.5, a part-timer. I only coach the jumps and the multis.
Oh, you went from two to,
I went
yeah.
from a lot to, and that
That's attractive.
I guess I thought because, I was at a Division II school that had more resources and had multiple coaches and stuff. But, and then, I just kind of, and I loved Division II. I thought I would
Mhm.
never leave. I thought Division II is for me. I love it. Um, but I thought I would never have the opportunity to coach such a small group. I think it's a question people ask a lot is, what's your ideal group to these coaches that coach? And I'd always say, multis, jumps, multis. And now that's what I get to coach.
What what was your experience with junior college and what did you think junior college coaching would be like and what's the reality?
My experience, nothing. I had
Zero.
zero. In fact, this job was sent to me by multiple different people multiple times saying this reads like your resume. Like you need to apply. And I'm like, I can't go to junior college. I don't know. And a lot of, like we said earlier, a lot of the stigmas and things, about I won't name a TV show, but a TV show I watched about, junior colleges, and I said, I can't be a part of that.
Right.
I can't, and that's not what it is at all,
By the way, tell me you're talking about oh my God, now I can't even think of it. The Last Chance U.
Yes.
Of
Yep.
course, because
Yep.
there needs to be a Last Chance U for track and field. There needs to be. I mean, to see reality of what junior
Well,
college
it
track
needs
and
to be and I'm not saying that wasn't reality, but like there's
uh,
so much other things that go
so
on. There's
much,
so
so much,
many
so much,
good kids and
so
so
much.
many
Yes,
like every place has their trouble, has their, and yes, we
absolutely.
are giving kids second and third and fourth chances. That we definitely are. We are taking on kids
Yep,
that can only go to junior college because of
right.
the way our academic stuff is set up, and they will not get into any
Yep,
other, we are doing that.
yep.
But a lot of those kids that they're grateful for that chance and they go on and they do great things, and there's the things that our kids go on to do, and but no, zero, nothing. I knew nothing about um
Like
and now.
you knew there were junior college athletics.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes, but
You didn't recruit any junior
I want to
college.
say we had two or three junior college kids the entire time I was
Yeah,
on. We
but
didn't recruit junior colleges.
you weren't like flying into Kansas to do the Jayhawk conference circuit and all that
Yep.
stuff. It was just like
I
okay,
should have been though.
yeah. Well, that's why I used to
Now,
coach in the
yeah.
Jayhawk. Yeah.
Yeah, I should
Okay,
have been.
so
That's what you
so what did you?
NCAA schools, you should be at our national championships and our
Oh,
regional
yeah.
championships. And
If
so, and a lot of them are.
As I say, if they don't know that by now,
Yeah.
I'm not sure you do actually, because you don't want to be successful.
Yeah.
Or you're
Um,
Ivy League, whatever Ivy League. What did you think? Like when you read the job descriptions, someone says, "Oh, this reads like your resume," and you're like, "Yeah, it's cool and all, but man, I don't want to." 2 years. I'm a coach that likes 4 years of development or small city, right? Well, you kind of grew up in small, yeah, kind of
Actually,
ish, yeah.
Fort Dodge is the largest place I've ever lived. So,
Is that right?
yep, about 24,000 people, largest place I've ever lived.
Wait, didn't you say you lived in Vermillion?
Yep, Vermillion is like 11 now. It was like 10 when.
Oh, I thought that was a little bit bigger for some reason
Mhm.
in my head. And Edinburgh, yeah, I'd imagine that's kind of
Yeah.
small. At Fort Dodge is the big. That's funny,
Yeah.
actually. Okay.
So that's, yeah, all the time, I talk about it being a small town. It's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
biggest place
yeah.
I've ever lived.
That's funny. Okay, so it did it cause you to hesitate? Like, did you wait 6 weeks to apply, or
Yes.
yeah?
Yes. I wait, yeah. And even after, and like kind of like when I finally did it, I just, okay, I'm gonna apply, but I'm probably not gonna take the job. And I was kind of told by people, again, you'll go to and make, I'm a female who has head coaching experience. I was they're like, you're gonna get an interview.
All right.
And not, like, just take the interview and see. Like
Yeah.
just, but D Brown called me right after I applied, and we talked some and things before, and I really liked him and I was pretty honest that, I had some reservations about junior college, and
Hmm.
I thought it was all trouble and stuff like that. It's not anywhere close to what it is. Like, it's not what, a large majority of our kids are not on their last chance.
Right.
They're not even on their second chance.
Right.
Very, very large majority. And you were there and
Yeah.
stuff, and
Yeah.
all
All
this.
all my kids were on their last chance, just so you're aware. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was last chance you before it was around. Absolutely. Yeah. I
Um,
used to here's the thing I didn't like about coaching junior college because I felt a little bit like a pariah when because I was in the Jayhawks, so this is when Barton was the bee's knees, and I mean everybody, Garden City, Hutch, all top 10 at nationals was nine. We were the SEC. This is probably the best way to put the SEC of JUCO track and field. The conference was. And so I just, I can't help myself. I'm like, well, I just want to win. So I mean, I can't deal with good kids. I got to get the same kids they're getting, right? So I just went after all the top kids. And so every kid that I recruited was so good that if they were a qualifier, well, they're not coming to JUCO. They
right.
have plenty of offers: Clemson, Florida State, Florida, Miami, etc. So I would call the school first and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about recruiting so and so. Could you send me their transcripts with test score?" And so, most of them I don't know how it is today. This was back in 2000, 2001. So things were a lot more looser back then, but they would just fax me the transcripts. And as the fax is coming through, and by the way, boys and girls, a fax, we used to send paper basically instead of an email, we'd send paper. So I'd get the fax and I would be just hoping like, oh, let me see a 1.4. Oh, let me see that 12 on that ACT, baby. Because then I could be able to recruit them. I had a shot. If I saw, there's some kids, it was so funny. I'd get it and be like, man, you got a 4.0 and a 32. God bless you, brother. You ain't coming here. So I felt a little like a shark of like, oh, I really hope they had good grades because you don't want to come to Chanute, Kansas, and Great Bend, can't you want to go to a great school? Uh, but if you didn't, you needed me and I needed you, and so that was the only part. And so literally 90 out of all my kids, 99% were non-qualifiers. I had one kid who wasn't very good out of high school, but was a qualifier, came and ended up going to Kansas State for a track. So that worked out. But I just
I
that
don't know
that
our percent, but it is not. We have a lot of kids
I,
that could
I
go.
I think it's different today. I don't know
Yeah.
why, because I hear this a lot. Because
Mhm.
I'm still stuck. Like, and when you said, most of our kids aren't on their even their second chance, I'm like, and come on, you're JUCO. 100% of your kids didn't qualify. Like that's just the JUCO.
Yeah. No, that's not no.
And I'm hearing that story a lot lately. That's not true at all,
Mhm.
actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's, and it's kind of a weird kind of reverse. Like people are asking, what do we need to do to get high school coaches, to get parents, to get people to just look at like
Yeah.
junior
Yeah. Yeah.
college? We are a small university.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
have 1,200 students that live on campus.
Right.
80 to 85% of them are student athletes. We have 33 varsity athletic sports. We have a whole campus. Yeah,
Holy crap.
33 varsity athletic
Okay,
sports.
hold on. Pause real quick. We're getting close
Don't
to
ask
our.
me to name them all.
No, no, no. Yeah, no, no. That convention I was just at, school. Adrian up in Michigan, the SID goes, yeah, we're the school with 51 sports. And I was like, I mean, I know Harvard has a crap ton and like a USC has a crap ton because of, rowing and scullery and all that kind of crap. I'm like, you're in the Midwest. It was amazing. Anyway, two quick questions. We're near our time. Are you okay
Okay.
for us to
Yeah.
continue? Okay. Two, before we get to, because first of all, me and you could do 2 hours just on junior college because of our passions and love for that role. But before we get there, take me to, so what changed your mind? You said you called D and everything. What changed your mind of like, okay, man, maybe this is right.
Yeah. So, and I interviewed and whatever. My interview was at 11 o'clock or whatever. It's going to be an hour. Okay. Right.
Right.
Whatever. My husband comes home like an hour and a half afterwards and he like starts coming upstairs and I'm still on the interview. Yeah. Like, so out of here.
Yeah.
And he was like, wow, that must have went well. And I was like, yeah, like it didn't feel like an interview. It felt like a conversation, like,
That's
and
good.
I was, like, I liked these people. I liked like what they were, selling. Cause yeah, they still are,
Yeah.
like, and I was like, it's maybe not what I think. Like, and then called some of my friends that went to because I had friends at Central Missouri that came from junior college,
Oh,
called them
right.
and
Right.
stuff, and and some of them too were like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not what it's not
Hmm.
what and ultimately when you're the coach, it is what you make it too,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
what you
true.
bring in, but it's how do we and then we came on a visit,
Mhm.
um, because we wanted to see it.
Yeah.
If we're gonna move out, we're moving from Pennsylvania, we're moving our
Yeah.
whole life, we're
Yeah.
all coming and stuff. And I was
Where's what did you say husband's name was?
Pat.
Pat. I knew it was short. I almost said
Yeah.
Sam. Pat. Is Pat from Pennsylvania?
Yes, he is.
So this is a move for him. This is, hey, I
Yes,
know
he
we're
had
coming.
never lived out of Pennsylvania, and you know what? He was made for Iowa, now we
Is
say.
that right?
He
That's funny.
loves it. Yes. But
Okay.
I know that is a concern,
Part of the
that
decision.
yeah, that I mean, I knew I could live in the Midwest and stuff. Like I knew
Yeah.
that, Fort Dodge, I don't know anything about Fort Dodge. I don't know anything
Uh,
about, but but that could be anywhere unless you're moving back. But he's never lived out of Pennsylvania.
wow.
So, he'd went to school at Edinburgh and then had been there for 23 years. So that was
Wow.
a bit, that was a big, but he loves it. He's an
Yeah.
academic advisor now on campus and he loves it and he
Did
is
did he
phenomenal at it.
did he end his time at Edinburgh as a basketball coach and became an academic advisor when he moved?
He didn't have a job when we first came.
That's what I'm saying.
So
So like
yeah.
he wasn't he didn't move from basketball to academic advising at Edinburgh.
No, no, no,
This
no,
kind of
no.
precipitated. Okay, okay. All right. So
Mhm.
you get to Iowa Western.
Oh,
Iowa
Iowa
Central.
Central.
No,
Oh,
I
oh,
knew it. I knew it. And you know what? I'm not even going to edit that out.
it's
I
okay.
make mistakes. Yeah, yeah. I
No,
knew it.
it's okay.
I knew
They're
I would
good
do that.
guys there. They're good guys too. I
They
wish we
are.
could not like each other, really not like each other, but I can't.
And the two head coaches are very good friends, by the way.
Yes,
So
like
yeah,
best
yeah,
friends in the
yes,
whole
yes,
like
yes,
yeah.
yes.
Because it's
I,
funny every now and then our kids try to like play us, and we're like
it
they're
might
calling it. They
be
talk to each other multiple times a day.
every conversation I've had with both of them, I think has included both of them. Like I don't think I've ever actually had a separate. It's always they're always together. Anyway, Iowa Central. So when you got there, one of the things. So coaching's coaching. You're coaching long jump at in Fort Dodge is the same as coaching long jump at Edinburgh, meaning all the variety and stuff like
My
that.
kids at Iowa Central, a lot of them are jumping quite a bit farther though. That is
Sure, sure,
fun.
sure. Yeah,
That
yeah.
is fun.
When but one of the things that I stress upon people at junior college, and it's so funny. I was talking to the AD of Lansing Community College at this event, and I was like, the thing that just draws me into junior college coaching is, when you're a high school coach, you're coaching and you're always trying to get your kids recruited, whether it's athletically or just academically. If hey, I just want you to go to college. That's hard. That's hard getting your kids recruited. When you're a four-year institution, you're always recruiting kids to your institution. You're always trying to get kids to transfer in or freshmen come in. That's hard. It really is hard. Junior college coaches are doing both of those all the time. You are constantly trying to get kids to your program and you are constantly trying to get your kids out to four-year schools. That is the part where I think when people look at junior college and go, oh, only 2 years, whatever. But it's like, dude, they're doing twice the work. They're doing both your job and your job in that respect. That's hard. You think you're always recruiting as a 4-year college? You are always in the recruiting game at junior
It
college.
it is so much different, so much because the number of kids, we say we probably estimate that we turn over about 70 to 75% of our kids because
Mhm.
especially in Iowa, there's a big push at the high school level to be taking college level classes. So we start recruiting kids and we'll have kids out of high school that will have their associate's degree when they graduate high school. We bring
Oh,
kid, it is common. I had one kid at Edinburgh that brought in like 30 some credits and it was like crazy. That
wow.
is a common thing here that we are
Wow.
bringing kids in that we know when they come in, they will only be here for 1 year because they'll graduate with their associates in 1 year. We
Interesting.
also have we have quite a few trades, but a few of our trades are also only 1 year programs.
Oh.
So even of our kids, like, yeah, we're not like, we say, well, they're freshmen and sophomores. How are you turning over 70 to
Yeah,
75%?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, we're bringing in a lot of kids that
Some of
no,
your
yes, some are
freshmen are
transferring
being
out. Yeah,
done. Yeah.
some are transferring out
Yeah.
before they're for all sorts of different reasons. But
Yeah.
yeah, like we have the kids that go through the 2 years and get their
Yeah.
associates, but we have a lot of them that are coming in that know they're only going to be here for 1 year.
So how are you adjusting? Because at Edinburgh you didn't have that.
No.
Your recruiting was probably 90% was new freshmen and
Mhm.
some transfers,
Yeah.
but it was mainly oh, I'm talking high school seniors every day, and now you're talking high school seniors every day. Plus you're talking to coaches 4-year schools of like, hey man, I got this this gal next year, she graduates, here's our marks, blah blah blah. You're always, like I said, you're always in recruiting mode.
Yeah, and it's no, it's definitely something that's been different. And that was one of the things. Now with COVID, I'd experienced a little bit. I had a couple kids that did like grad transfers.
Hmm.
So they finished their 4 years at Edinburgh, but they had another year. And they're, obviously like with some of
Oh
them, I
right.
said, we
Mhm.
want you to be here, but if you can go somewhere and get a grad assistant and get it paid for and stuff like that. So
Right,
like,
right, right, right,
like I'm
right,
not going to stop a kid from doing that.
right.
So I had maybe this much experience. That was one of like
Yeah.
the questions on my interview. And I like said that and they probably like laughed to themselves as they were like, yeah, good answer. But no, it is,
Like, oh, that's so cute, little 4-year school coach.
yeah. Oh, two in 10 years. That's awesome. Um,
To
but no,
grad
it is.
to grad programs, by the way, that's also different.
Yes, exactly. The transferred on, yeah, that got their 4 year degree and were grad program. Yeah, it was not the same at all. I look back and I'm like, did you guys like laugh at me after I said that? Like, you guys get off the call and make fun of me? You should have. But it is like, and that's been one of the biggest change. And like you said, like just the year round, and the number of kids, our program, we have 120 kids on our roster. We have a large program. We have a lot of coaches too. So it's not, but the number of kids we are recruiting is so much different. Just the pure, the volume and stuff like that. And it is
Why?
all like, it's like you said, we're kind of always recruiting, always trying to sell myself, always trying to sell my program, always trying to, because you never know who you're gonna run into or who's gonna be. And now, now that I'm closer to home and stuff too, and my kid isn't very old yet, but I have high school classmates and stuff like that have kids that are going into college and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And you
Is
just never know who you're gonna be running into and who you're gonna be talking to, that ultimately there could be a recruit there at some
Yeah.
point.
Is that part of your culture there at Central to have 100 and plus kids? Why,
Mhm.
why so that seems like, I mean, I know of programs with more, but
Mhm.
that's a lot. I mean, once you get to the 100 range, that's a lot.
Yeah. Well, we have, like I said, we have 5.5 coaches too.
Hmm,
So
hmm.
we have a lot of coaches and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yes, we are very athletically driven, are on campus. Like I said,
Oh, yeah, you said 80% or something.
yeah, so 100, they say 100, I'm sorry, 1,200 student athletes on campus. We have on-campus apartments and dormitories and stuff like that, which is different than a lot of, not where you were, you're very, Iowa and Kansas, those schools are very similar. But if
Right.
you just talk about nationwide, there's a lot of, we have the on-campus, and then
Right.
over 5,000 people that are taking Iowa Central classes at any given semester. But that could
Oh,
be like you or me taking one class. That's the high school kids that are taking a couple classes. But yes, there is a lot, that reach. It's a huge
yeah.
reach of people that are taking Iowa Central classes. So,
What I don't know if I've ever asked a junior, and I don't know if I've thought about this with myself either. Uh, which part of that recruiting do you enjoy the most? Do you enjoy the, selling yourself in your program to get kids to your program, or the selling the kid? This sounds terrible when I say selling the kids,
no,
but
no, yeah,
but
promoting. There we go.
promoting the kids to a 4 year.
I think right now, just because the promoting the kids to the 4 year is such a different new thing for me, I would say that.
Hmm.
But I still do enjoy, I like going into high schools. I truthfully, actually, I prefer going to practice. I don't love when I go sit in the library or the cafeteria, and
Yeah,
but I like getting to go to high school practices. I don't want to be a high school or middle school coach.
yeah,
Again, that's another area.
yeah,
Um, Thank God for you people and what you
yeah,
do.
yeah,
That is not for me, but I enjoy getting to, go to practice and stuff and just kind of see how everything is running and see all the different and,
yeah,
talk and get to talk to the different kids in their element. That's the
yeah,
thing. Again, we kind of talk about the best behavior. I mean, I'd hope they're on a little bit better behavior when I'm standing right there, but I'm in their element at that point.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not, they're not coming into the counselor's office and meeting with me, or, at the cafeteria. I'm not sitting down at their lunch table. They're coming over to me and stuff. It is a
yeah,
different, but you get to see them more in their element when you
yeah.
go to practice. So I prefer getting to go to practice. I don't get to go to as many as I want because obviously this is the same time as ours, but that's what I uh prefer. But for right now, I would say, yeah, it's promoting our kids to the next level. It's getting to say, look what they've done so far, but what they could do, and then, them getting, those scholarship offers or just those opportunities. Some of our kids come to Iowa Central with the plan to do 2 years of track and they're going to be done because
Right,
nobody wanted them. People wouldn't
right,
even return emails and stuff like that.
right.
We had kids that said, "You literally the only school that returned my email." Which, yeah, is heartbreaking stuff. And then they end up going on to a NAIA or Division 3 or something like that, and it's
Right.
like that is as big as those kids were sending to those Power 4 schools,
Yeah.
because that's probably almost more of a success story with some of those kids, especially the international kids or the kids with the ridiculously bad grades. They had no other option but us,
Right,
but they
right.
were already phenomenal.
Yeah.
They would have, had they had the grades, or, if it was a little easier for some of those international kids to go
Hmm.
NCAA, they would have done that.
Right.
Like, it's nothing I did. I just kind of didn't mess them up for 2 years.
Yeah. Hey,
But,
which is its own skill, by the way.
yeah,
Honestly,
yeah. But
I just made
those
me
other
think.
kids,
It just made me think about the dual recruiting is perfect for you, for someone who needs to always have a
always doing, yeah.
100 plates spinning. It's like, oh, cool, I got 50 on this side of recruiting and 50 over
Mhm.
here, and they're not gonna drop, baby. Yeah, 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 yeah. I literally was just like, oh yeah, you're made for this, man. You're just tick-tocking back and forth, and this is made for you. Yeah. So what is it? Why can't I'm not going to ask you why because you know I don't know that we know the answer, but what can we be doing as junior college coaches? And there's high school coaches listening right now. There's junior. I think 4-year colleges maybe get it in the academically challenged. I don't know that they are encouraging the athletically challenged, meaning, I'll use, I'll use a good friend of mine. I'll use Dennis Shaver at LSU. I think when a really good kid, a kid who's of an LSU caliber calls Dennis and has that 1 point GPA and that, whatever test score, I know, Dennis came from the junior college route. So I know Dennis is like, hey, let me talk to you about we'd love to have you at LSU, but,
Mhm.
academically you're not going to make it. So maybe junior college, here's something that I recommend, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure. In fact, I'll just go out on a limb. And Dennis, you can call we talk. You can call me, text me, tweet me, and tell me I'm just dead wrong here. I don't know that a 12.5 100-meter girl calls LSU, calls Dennis, says, "Oh man, I grew up I'm a Tiger. I want to get." It's like, I don't know that Dennis is returning that call or returning that email saying, "Hey, not where we need you to be today, but junior, there's great junior college. Maybe you can go 2 years of junior college and you might turn into an 11.4, 11.3. It's happened. That's not crazy. I don't know that he's doing that. So, but I think 4-year schools are maybe more inclined on the academic side to
Mhm.
talk about a junior college. We talked a little bit, we talked about the parenting ego of, does my kid go to Harvard or Parkland? I think coaches, and this is not a judgment, I think coaches have that same thing. Is it cooler for me to tell my coaching buddies that, I sent a kid to Harvard or Parkland Community College, right? So I think they're sometimes less inclined academically and athletically to
Mhm.
recommend junior college. What do we need to be doing on the junior college side to help coaches see like, hey, the academic, whether it's academic issues or not, junior college might be the right place for more of your kids than you think.
Well, and I think another thing to look at too is you have, the kids that, they don't have the academic problems, they don't have, in a lot of cases, we're going to be less expensive too to knock out those gen eds and things like that.
Yeah.
That also the safety nets and things that I know we have and many other junior colleges have that. So if you have a kid that maybe, maybe they were a 3-1-3-2, but every single night mom and dad were sitting down helping them with their homework, making sure. So that kid is going to go to a 4-year school and get lost
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
nobody is going to sit down. Now, I may not sit down with them and do their homework, but I have direct access to all their grades and things like that, and we'll
Right.
see immediately when they're slipping. It depends on the school, the level of, study halls and tutoring and
Hmm.
things, but I think at the junior college level, there's probably more of that type of stuff. So
Hmm.
even with those kids that maybe did well, like I always used to say when I was at my 4 year, the kids I was most worried about were the kids that were good enough students that they didn't need to study or do things like that in high school
Hmm. Hmm.
because in college you're going to need to, and they don't have those study skills and they don't know they don't have those study skills. The
Hmm.
kid
Hmm.
that didn't have the study skills and barely made it through high school, they know they at least know they don't have the study skills. But the kids that could just show up and ace the
Yeah.
test so they didn't do the homework and stuff like that, you may make it out of your entry level classes and stuff, but you're not working your way up and you're definitely not meeting your full potential.
Right.
And those were always the kids, I always just say those are the kids that I was most worried about
Hmm.
because they don't know how to fail a test and what they do after they fail a test because they've never failed a test.
Yeah.
They don't, like in some of their cases, they barely know how to do homework and stuff because they barely did it because they didn't have to
Right.
because they were good
Right.
enough to get by. And we're checking up on that and checking, like I said, I have access to my kids' grade. If something has been entered in the grade book, I have access to it. I didn't have that at the last school I was at. I
Hmm.
don't know that a lot of people, when I tell a lot of coaches
Hmm.
that, they're like, what do you mean?
Right.
And I was like,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I have access to their grade book.
Yeah.
So I can, and some of those safety nets and things like that are really, really good for some
Yeah.
of those kids that maybe are the 3-1-3-2 student,
Hmm.
but they're going to need that extra push and things like that. And I just, like there's just so many kids that are here in their first year and stuff like that. It's a great transition into college. And like
I,
I said, and less expensive if all you're doing is
th-
knocking out gen eds anyways.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm surprised, and maybe overall junior college enrollment is up, but I am surprised that it's not more of a thing in 2025 right now. I mean, things are more expensive and our wages are not keeping track at all with, inflation and all that kind of stuff. It just makes it like, I just thought about this because I was like, oh, I have, we have a great community college at Parkland right here, and my kid's just about to become a freshman in high school and a sixth grader, so they're young. I have talked about junior college since we started talking about anything at all about college. Like I'd be like, oh man, man, I don't know why. U of I is a great school. Love it if you'd go to U of I. That's awesome. But they got a program at Parkland. You do your 2 years there, and it's automatically transferred. And it's like not even half the cost. It's way less than the cost. So I'm just surprised that junior college in the track and field world hasn't caught on just for that alone, because it's not like we're football where it's like, oh, well, you know why? It's because every track scholarship's a full ride. I mean, we're talking about books and 25%. That's a big scholarship. So why not go to a junior college where you'll pay less? Uh, I don't know. No one can say anything to me about the competition level because it's like, well, that's just dumb. First of all
Yeah.
the JUCOs are going to all the same meets that every other school's going to, and the national. Go look at nationals and tell me that it
Yeah.
doesn't make sense,
Our
right?
nationals are insane. I can't
Stupid,
believe,
just dumb. Yeah, yeah,
cannot
yeah.
believe how
It's
fast
it's
and
unbelievable.
far and all. Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
insane.
it used to be. So when I was there for the 2001 season, there were still a couple of events that weren't that. Javelin wasn't all that great. Like you could get a kid, and you didn't have to be that great of a coach. You could get an eighth place at nationals. Now, when you go, it's like, oh yeah, go find the weak link. There is no weak link.
Yeah.
Eighth place in the javelin's really freaking tough. Eight in the hammer, relay. All the relays have always been good, but it's just crazy. But I am surprised that more. And I think and this isn't a slam at the coaches that were there when I was there in 2001, because we had amazing coaches that a lot of them are now. I mean, Lance Brahman, good friend, now, is a professional coach with Noah, and he was at Barton, and, David Self is kicking butt at Sam Houston. So there's a lot of amazing coaches. But I think overall, the quality, well, and this probably actually goes to the overall track and field coaching body, but I was going to say the coaches at junior college overall are much better, like as a group, but that might actually just be the whole, because I think all track and field coaching has really stepped up. Like there's just, we have way more very knowledgeable track coaches today than we did in 2000. And it is certainly, JUCO is not a miss of that. JUCO has stepped up with that as well for the quality of coaches as well. So it is interesting. Is that your number one, I don't say frustration?
Oh, but yes, yeah,
Is that right?
is just, and like I said, maybe two years and a month ago, that was me. I was the one that wasn't
Um,
applying and then I don't even know how do I
that's a
convince myself other than get here and meet the people and see that, like,
great
I'm
point.
blown away by Iowa Central's campus. It's a
I,
full campus.
I'm blown away with your self-awareness, because that is a great point that, 2-ish years ago, Mike, I was in that same boat. That's a great point. When I said, is that your number one frustration, and you agreed, is the frustration that when you call a kid or a coach, they don't know about you and or the junior college opportunity, or they think they're above the
That
junior
they think
college?
I'm above. Because there's definitely people that I've never heard about Iowa Central, but I'll give it a listen. And one of the first things now I say when I do my initial recruiting calls and stuff like that, it's one of my very first questions. Do you know what junior college is?
Mm,
Because there are some kids, depending on where you're at and where they don't have a clue, or they kind of
right,
think they do, but they don't.
right.
And there's a couple times I've kind of gotten into, and they're like, well, what do you mean I'll only be there for 2 years? Well, what do you mean? And it's like, well, this is a community, and they just don't
Yeah,
know. And
yeah, yeah,
that's not a shot at anyone or
yeah,
anything,
yeah, yeah.
depending on
Yeah.
where you're at in the country and things like that. There's not a lot of community colleges and
I,
stuff.
I'm a culprit of this, but I wonder, because I call it junior college, I call it JUCO. It's just easier to say, and it's just what I
Mhm.
know. I wonder if we do ourselves a disservice by calling it junior college versus community college, because when junior is automatically, there's junior level and senior level, and it's like, no, it's not. It's not that. It's 2 years instead of a 4 year, and but it transfers into a 4 year. So yeah, maybe I need to start being part of the solution. Maybe he's calling it, but I like to say JUCO, and I don't think Coco. Yeah, that doesn't sound
Yeah.
right when I say
Well, and the
yeah.
kid, like that's the big the JUCO product and stuff is a lot of our kids, that's a big chip on their shoulder so I don't think but I just,
Yeah.
like I said, it's more the frustration that they immediately shut it down than the not understand. Because if somebody wants to learn, I
Yeah,
have
yeah,
no
yeah.
problem with that. Like
Right.
wanting to learn, lack of knowledge, but wanting to learn is awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah.
not, just thinking that you're better is just
the
ignorance.
the
It's not,
shutdown of like,
yeah.
yeah, thanks, but no, that like, almost like the when you're saying, yeah, I had a couple of transfer kids, like that's cute for your school. It's almost like now it's like, that's cute, junior college. Iowa State's gonna call me any day now, and it's like, oh, bro, they're not. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly. I know the
yeah.
coach at Iowa State, he doesn't want you.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
Oh,
that's
hey, that's the other thing. and again, I give a lot of grace to 17, 18-year-old kids, but a high school coach is like, all right, you're a fully formed adult here, hopefully, right? And it's like, wait a minute, do you think these junior college coaches don't know every one of these supposed four-year schools that are going to be calling you any day now? Like, what are you doing here? You're going to dismiss the person that's very valuable to the four-year school, by the way. I know four-year schools are calling you every day. They understand the power. It's like, man, what are you doing? All right, start wrapping up here, but I am curious about your thought, and I don't think it's official. I was talking again a couple of ADs this weekend. This whole that the junior college eligibility doesn't count towards the four-year, and I didn't think about this because I'm dumb. I thought of it in the traditional sense. I was like, yeah, that's kind of, I mean, I kind of get it, by the way, when someone's the talk about, junior college doesn't count towards NCAA four-year because it's like they're two different organizations. My pea brain, I get that. Thought about it in a traditional sense of like, okay, so a kid's going to be able to go to Iowa Central for 2 years and then go on to, because you're in Iowa, I keep using Iowa and Iowa State, Iowa State, Drake. I got to be fair to my guys at Drake, and to go 4 more years to use up their NCAA eligibility. I was like, oh, that's cool. That's kind of crazy, but that's awesome because maybe that means more people will get graduate degrees. So I kind of like that. And as I was telling this to, I think it was the Lansing AD, when the community college, he goes, yeah, he goes, no, it was a different community college. He goes, yeah, okay, think about this though. Kid goes to a four-year school, doesn't like it after the red shirts his first year, now goes to a junior college and does their 2 years there, and now goes back to a different school. So they're in their fourth year of school, but they're still a freshman. And I was like, well, I never thought about the 242 or the
Yeah.
424. I was like, I didn't think about that. That's kind of crazy when you say it that way, but I don't know. What do you think about this
I
possibility?
like I said, in the positive aspect, I thought about the grad school right
Hmm.
off the bat is that, you know, and now that everybody and not, but like bachelor's degrees are kind of becoming, they're not as high as they were in
Hmm.
it. It's just going to keep happening and things like that. The idea that kids can go through and get, and the kids that need to. I don't want to use athletic scholarships like a bad thing, like, oh, we're just
Right.
throwing this money away, but they're getting an education that they need and they're going to turn around and use that education to get a job and give
Right.
back and do, it's a phenomenal thing. So
That's right.
I look at that. We talk about the people, the career student athletes, but you're going to have that no matter what. And actually,
Yeah.
at community college, you have 2 years in every sport. It's not like the NCAA. Yes, I have the only sports I have exhausted my eligibility with in at the junior college level is indoor and outdoor track and field.
Hold on,
I
hold on.
can I
So
can go if I'm
yours,
a full-time student, I can go play softball for 2 years and then I can play soccer for 2 years and I can do shooting sports for 2 years and I can't do rodeo for 2 years, but I could at Iowa Central. Yes, I
Mhm.
learned that, yes.
so as
You have to be
long
a
as
full-time
a
student and you
full-time
have
student,
and you have yeah, and you have to be, pursuing a degree. But there isn't like the
but you can
10
get but
semesters.
but you can get multiple associate's degrees. So it's not
Yeah,
like you
mhm,
get one, it's like, well, you already got that one.
right.
You can, okay,
Yeah.
now I'm going to work on my
I'll just go
computer
get another
science.
one. Yeah.
Is that right? That's
So there are
crazy.
already workarounds to people being like career student athletes that they
Yeah,
don't use.
yeah, yeah,
So I mean, I don't know that that is a great like a good
yeah, yeah,
argument
yeah, yeah, yeah,
because there
yeah.
are workarounds to that
Right.
already.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's right.
I
In
don't
today's
know.
world, what do we just have the Miami punter or linebacker, somebody who was, their eighth year, ninth year, and it's like because of COVID year and then a couple medical red shirts. It's like, well, that happens today. I
Yeah.
mean, that kid did go JUCO, yeah,
Yeah. So there already are, like
yeah.
we don't have anyone that at Iowa Central to my knowledge that's bouncing around and getting every single degree to continue to play college sports.
Wait, so, oh wait, no,
So I can
so
still run
so
cross country. I
so
use no cross country eligibility
So you
and
can't do the sport at all once you exhaust. So we can't have a kid.
get 2 years. Yep.
He wins the 100 meter dash the freshman sophomore year, and then decides to go back and get a different degree and joins the basketball team, but still does
Yep.
track on the.
No,
He can do basketball. He can't do
you can do
track.
basketball. You can't do track. Yep.
You'd have to be a phenomenal athlete because again, JUCO athletics are really good. So to make another team, you still and that wasn't your main sport. Like that, you got to be that's crazy. You'd have
So
to
I
be
don't
like,
think anyone's doing it, but I'm just saying there
yeah, yeah,
already is that workaround. So to make the argument, and you're always going to have those cases. There's always going to be that one kid
yeah,
that
yeah,
somehow is on their ninth year of college at NCAA
yeah.
college athletics and nobody can figure.
And
So, and I
and
don't,
that's the problem is we like to take that one or two people and now we got to make 10 different rules or we got to hammer the whole system because look at that one kid. And it's like, man, that's one kid. This isn't
yeah,
a theme. It's an outlier. You know what we do
yeah,
with outliers? We go, that's cute, move on.
right.
Yeah.
So, um, I don't know, I don't know. I think it will change. It'll change stuff for us a lot. I think community colleges will grow because as soon as that court case went through, which is not a blanket thing, by the way, it's
Right,
not.
right, right,
We were immediately getting calls. Kids that had said they're going to go for it, immediately getting calls. Well, I'm going
right.
to come JUCO now because it won't count towards my eligibility. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like,
Yeah, you had to dispel the myths
yeah,
of like not yet.
exactly.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I couldn't even tell you how many times I've explained that.
That right. Wow.
Yes, because I
Hey,
don't want to be the coach, and I hope nobody out there is doing it. I don't want to be I'm not going to lie to a kid, and then they go onto their 4-year school and they say, "What do you
right,
mean I only have two
right,
more
right.
years?"
What do they
But
say?
they're,
Any
yeah,
publicity is good publicity. This is a good publicity. Like, oh, more people started paying attention to us. Okay,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's
there we
good.
go.
That's
Yeah.
good. It's not there yet, but okay, that's
Mhm.
cool. That's cool. Well, Anne, appreciate your time. You're so graciously allowed me to go over time. So I have one more question for you here. As you look, you're staring your third year in the face here, getting ready to do that there at Iowa Central. And you get to answer this, you get to define future however you like. Could be next year, could be 5 years, 10 years. What's got you excited about the future there at Iowa Central?
So I just, like I said, athletics is such a push here, and we have so much support and things like that. And, um, you know, D Brown has won a lot of national titles. I always tell people when they come, he won 40 national titles in cross country, half marathon, indoor and outdoor track and field. So no other community college has done that. That he has these suitcases full of national championship rings. I always tell people about. He won't tell you, so I'll tell you. But it's just it's what happens here. People, we're very successful in all of our athletic teams too. It's not just I really would just want to keep pushing towards one, bringing home a trophy. We were fifth on the men's side in outdoors, so we're climbing back up and stuff. But yeah, it's just to continue to push to, bring home trophies and hopefully a national title back to Iowa Central. So
That's awesome. Well, I tell you, I'm just floored with your really young journey. I mean, I always like to use like a 400-meter dash as kind of the example. You're in your what, going into your 13th, 14th-ish
I think
year?
it's 15th.
Yeah, 15 years. It can easily, to be able to look at it and be like, oh, I know I've still got, I'm not retiring tomorrow, but I've done a lot and things like that. Man, and I think about it, it's like, man, if I were to use a 400-meter analogy, you might be in the blocks. Like it's easy to say like, oh, I'm around the corner for the final stretch. It's like, no, you're so early in your
I kind
career.
of hope I'm at least 200 meters into a
You're
400
not.
if you're
No,
talking
no.
about.
You know what? You're not. You know why? I'm glad you said that because 200 meters is halfway.
Yeah, and that would be 30 years.
You've been coaching 15 years, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You're not going to coach just 15 years.
Oh,
I hope that you make so much money that you're able to retire at that age. That would be a young, early retirement. You're going to coach maybe 20 more years. And with today's, we keep getting the healthcare advances of what we're doing. You may coach for the next 25 years.
oh,
So
okay.
what you think you're at half is like, oh, you're about to do that again. You've coached for 15, that's been a long time, and it certainly is. You're going to do that again. And by the way, the second half of that 15 and 20 years, you're ahead of the game. It ain't like when you first got into it and you're like, man, I got to figure out I don't even know what eligibility means. I got to figure out how to make a kid eligible. You're so far advanced, man. It's just so cool to see what you've accomplished, the young people that you've positively impacted in this short amount of time that I know at times can feel long, but in this short amount of time, what it's going to be the next 10, 20, maybe 30 years, man. It's just so cool to see. And I think you might have been a little bit more successful these 15 years than the average coach at 15 years because your self-awareness is off the chart, Ann. I mean, I think a lot of people, the way you explained of like, hey, I was that person when the job came open at Iowa Central, and I was like, I don't know anything about JUCO. JUCO's this, but I don't think people would have said that. They'd have been like, it's a different route, blah blah blah. You had the awareness of like, I was that person. I get when someone calls me and tells me, or I call them and they don't understand. It's like, yeah, me neither. I didn't either. So your self awareness is just off the charts, and I think that's got to be not only a huge blessing to your athletes. I got to imagine you're an amazing teammate of your staff there at Iowa Central and the athletic department. You got to be, I bet you if I went and asked all of them, so tell me about Ann. How do you like working with her? I bet people are like, oh man, you know what? Ann makes me better. Like I just see you as that self-awareness is just a big key to help keep yourself in check. So you're a good, you yourself are doing the right things for your team and you're helping your teammates. And that's so cool to see from the sidelines here.
Well, thank you. My husband would argue that I'm not a good teammate,
Yeah,
that I'm
well,
that's why I'm a track and field coach.
as I'm blessed that my wife does clean. Thank you, Amy. Love you. Yeah, I could see him being like, "Yeah, dude, listen, man, I got to pick up everything." But you know what? And I'm sorry, not Sam. I want to say
Pat,
Sam.
it's okay. You're okay. Yeah.
Pat. I'm sorry because I know you're listening. Pat, thank you. You know, you're helping balance the scales because I'm a guy who doesn't pick up anything. You're the guy who does it all. Love you, brother. Thank you so much for doing that and being such a great dad and a great spouse for a track and field coach as well, my man. And thank you so much. You know, the this was awesome. This was well worth the wait. You know, we've been talking since what, March or something
I
like
know. I
that.
kept thinking I could just keep putting it off, and
You did, you
when when
know,
when
I'm
your
glad you
boss
said that.
signs when your boss signs you up, it makes it hard to say
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. When I was like, who actually nominated you? That guy you think so much of, your boss, he thought you should be on it. And you know what? Because I know you're listening as well, brother. You nailed it, brother. She's awesome. You're lucky to have her on your staff. And I know you know that. I know the Iowa Central Athletic Department knows that as well. But and thank you so much for your time. That is the most valuable thing you can give me. You're busy. You know, you talked about you're going on vacation soon. You deserve that. You've got a 6 year old. I know what that's like. That it's its own full time job. Your recruiting does not stop. I know you probably had 10 calls come in when we've been here just recording this. So just so grateful for your time. So grateful for your openness and authenticity. I hope you had a good time. I know I certainly did. And I know the listeners did as well.
Well, thank you very much for your time as well.
Awesome. So guys and gals, thank you so much. You know, I try to we allot 2 hours for these interviews, and I try to be around an hour and a half, hour and 40, depending on what it is. I've noticed because I remember, so the person we're talking about who's good friends with D is Mark. He's over at Iowa Western, not Central. I get those things mixed up all the time. I know when I talk to Mark, I probably called him Iowa Central too. But his was over 2 hours as well. There's something with the junior college coaches. My heart is there, guys and gals. So you can just, if you see a future episode with a JUCO coach on it, just know we banging for 2 hours, man. We got to get into it because it's just so critical to not only our track and field environment and society, but to our college society. And I think it's super important. So thank you again for being here this week. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.